Elena Voss woke up as the morning sun's rays still sporadically filtered through the curtains of the small bedroom she rented on the outskirts of the seaside city of Belindre. The city still seemed to be in a drowsy sleep, with only the gentle sound of waves lapping the shore and the distant cries of seagulls. She inhaled deeply, trying to shake off the vague thoughts about the future. Today was her first day working at Belindre Veterinary Clinic, where she had left the big city of Eastbourne to begin a new chapter in her career. She had once dreamed of a small, cozy clinic that was friendly to both animals and their owners, where she could wholeheartedly save every living creature. That dream was now gradually becoming reality, but her heart could not help but feel a mixture of nervousness and excitement. The little wooden house where she lived overlooked a dirt road leading down to the beach. Everything remained peacefully unchanged. The sea breeze carried the salty scent of seaweed, and the sky was a clear blue backdrop dotted with clusters of cottony white clouds. She suddenly wondered, here, can I find true affection? I have escaped the dull, lonely past in Eastbourne, where every morning going to work felt like a race against pressure. Here, can I sustain the longing to be loved and to share? These questions echoed in her mind, but she shook her head to dispel her worries and put on the pristine white lab coat, the distinctive sign of a doctor with zeal and love for animals. The clinic's doorbell rang just as Elena's hurried footsteps descended. She grabbed the toolbox in her hand and nimbly stepped out to greet the first client of the new day. The clinic was only about 10 square meters, but it was decorated to feel very cozy, the walls painted in a gentle pastel blue, shelves filled with medicines and veterinary instruments, and beside them a small, charming reception counter. A few illustrative pictures of dog and cat breeds hung by the large glass window, allowing natural light to filter in. On the tiled floor, a woolen rug with a charcoal brown pattern lessened the coldness of the tiles. A middle-aged man stood waiting in front of the counter, clutching a neat cardboard box, his eyes filled with worry. He waved and greeted, trying to steady his low, hoarse voice. "Hello, doctor, I am. My name is Corson. I have a puppy that needs an examination." His friendly yet reserved smile caught her attention. His voice sounded slightly hoarse, as if someone who often skipped breakfast or woke up too early. Elena gently replied, "I am Elena Voss. Nice to meet you. Please, have a seat. Let me look at the puppy's papers, and I will examine him right away." She turned slightly toward the cardboard box, from which soft whimpering sounds could be heard. The puppy's faint panting as the patient caught her attention. Though her hands were slender, they were full of confidence as she lightly touched the examining table, trying to offer comfort to the little puppy. Elena carefully opened the cardboard box, and the moment her eyes met the glossy black eyes of the orphaned puppy, her heart melted. The pup had light brown fur and drooping ears, not too big, about 5 months old, but his face showed fatigue and suffering. He whimpered softly upon seeing her, likely because the wound on his left leg was still bleeding fresh. The man bent down and lifted the puppy. "Doctor, his name is Milo. I found him a few days ago on a mountain road. His leg seems to have been bitten or injured. I don't know why he collapsed on the road. I beg you, please help him." Elena knelt down to closely inspect the wound. Her eyes briefly showed concern and then gradually focused. She spoke gently, "Milo, you're okay, right? It doesn't hurt too much, does it?" The puppy trembled, his eyes looking up at her as if beseeching help. She reached out, bringing her hand close to his face, gently stroked him, and then gave a slight smile to reassure him. "Don't be afraid, I'll do my best to heal you." This made the man, who had been anxious, breathe a sigh of relief. He looked at her with a mix of respect and curiosity. "Thank you. Where are you from?" "This is the first time I've brought Milo to a clinic. Seeing you, I feel you're very skilled. I trust you immediately." Elena stood up, her gaze carefully studying his features before answering. "I just moved here from Eastbourne, where I used to work at a large clinic. Now I want to slow down and devote my passion to each patient as a pet, to heal and comfort their owners. She carefully cleaned the wound, wiped away the pus, and then stitched it up. Her hands moved deftly, like those of an experienced doctor. The sutures were fluid, both swift and precise. When she finished bandaging, the wound was still swollen but no longer seeping. Milo stirred slightly, then lowered his head as if in gratitude. The man placed his hand on her shoulder, his eyes full of appreciation. His leg isn't too serious, right? Can you tell me if he will be able to run and play normally afterward? Elena smiled, her voice gentle yet professional. This wound will take about 2 weeks to heal. If properly cared for and given antibiotics, he will return to normal. Bring Milo for complete vaccination, feed him well, and avoid letting him run vigorously for a few weeks. I will write a clear prescription and guide you on how to care for him. Milo looked at her with clear, grateful eyes, his tail wagging as she patted his head. While she wrote the prescription, the man named Corson watched her elegant handwriting closely, then carefully put the documents away. A thought flashed in his mind: she's not only skilled but also gentle. Maybe I won't hesitate to bring Milo here whenever needed. She's the best veterinarian I've ever met. This thought made him smile. But he knew he couldn't let her discover what lay behind his real reasons. He nodded. Thank you, Elena. See you next week. I'll bring Milo for a follow-up. Elena replied softly, See you, Milo. She watched the duo of owner and patient leave the clinic, then slowly began to put away her instruments, her gaze tinged with wistfulness. After closing the clinic door, she stepped into the small yard in front, where the sea breeze gently carried a salty scent. After a moment, she walked back along the dirt road, through the fresh wind, toward her little wooden house. Under the shade of the green cypress tree on the porch, Elena stood still, admiring the surroundings. She wondered, can I stay in Bellandre for a long time? Will life here bring the happiness I long for? Her mind lingered on the image of Milo, the little puppy with bewildered yet brave eyes fighting against pain, reminding her of childhood days on her family's farm outside her hometown, when she rescued a wild kitten with a broken leg, cared for it for months until one day it wagged its tail at her return from school. Her love for animals had nurtured her into the doctor she was today, both strong and determined, yet gentle and empathetic. By midday, sunlight streamed through the window, the white curtains swaying gently, casting a warm patch of light on her desk. Elena sat by the window, her fingers interlaced, gazing out at the distant sea. She reflected on the past, the months she had spent living alone in a big city, each night returning to her cramped apartment and quietly studying veterinary medicine on her computer. She remembered the loneliness hidden beneath her strong exterior. While her close friends were all married, she seemed to have only her work and the animals she healed. But Bellandre was different. Here, she felt the breath of peaceful life. She wanted to open her heart, but her heart, once wounded by a broken sincere love, still felt wary. That afternoon, as the sun prepared to set, Elena decided to check her email. An unread message appeared. Hello Elena, I am Mason from our veterinary class at Eastbourne University. I heard you moved to Bellandre to open a clinic. Wishing you success. If you need anything, feel free to contact me. Mason. Her eyes momentarily flickered with emotion. Mason, her classmate in veterinary medicine, someone she once looked on with friendly eyes, reminded her of the times they explored stitching techniques together. But she had mercilessly rebuffed his flirtations back then, not wanting any relationship to be envied by another student. Now, that brief message made her feel nostalgic. She smiled and replied quickly, Thank you, Mason. I'll keep in touch. Then she shut down her computer and prepared a simple dinner of bread and vegetable soup in her small kitchen. Though not elaborate, the meal was warm. She ate in silence, letting her soul soak in the sound of wind softly passing through the window. Before falling asleep, Elena remembered the morning meeting with the man named Corson and the puppy Milo. She told herself, tomorrow, I will see if there is anything unusual about him. Perhaps Bellandre is not only a place to heal animals but also to open unexpected fateful ties. Yet she did not know that someone was following her every step, hiding behind a gentle appearance, ready to protect her from dangers she had not foreseen. And in her heart, the longing to share, to be cherished and understood, was gently awakening like a shy rosebud welcoming the dawn. The next morning, when Elena arrived at the clinic, the sky was still misty. Follow her into a new day, but this time, an unseen presence was waiting outside. Liam Corson crouched by the base of the cypress tree in front of the porch, quietly observing her. Under the weak sunlight, his dark brown hair fell across his forehead, his eyes intently watching her every gesture. He crossed his arms, hiding a mysterious phone behind his back, always ready to receive any urgent orders. But in that moment, his heart beat slowly to a new rhythm, surprise, closeness, then a hint of yearning difficult to name. He told himself to maintain his distance, but Liam couldn't help a faint smile when Elena smiled brightly and said, "Hello, Mr. Corson." That voice, resonating in the small space, carried the warmth he had been yearning for. An old car passed by, sending droplets of dew-slick leaves into the air before disappearing down the winding road. Elena hurried into the clinic, full of hope. Today is Milo's checkup. I hope he's doing better. When she carried Milo's cardboard box to the reception counter, Elena's eyes lit up with joy upon seeing the puppy wagging his tail happily. Milo ran over, leaning his body against her legs, soaking her lab coat. She gently stroked his warm fur, then smiled at Mr. Corson. Milo looks much healthier now. Today, we'll check if we need to change the bandages or administer more medication. I'm so happy to see him recovering so quickly. Liam nodded, his eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you so much. I've taught him some light exercises so his bones can heal faster. That simple statement made Elena even more favorable. You've taken very good care of Milo. My intuition says you're doing the right thing. I will support you as much as possible. Throughout the examination, Elena observed every reaction of Milo, his eyes brightening when she offered him supplemental nutritious food, his skinny leg no longer whining in pain when she touched the wound. Every second, she followed the puppy's responses, but she did not forget to record notes in the medical log. With careful handwriting, she tried to document every detail: wound closed, no swelling, gait almost normal, recommend rest, no running. She explained thoroughly to Mr. Corson, I will remove the old bandage, disinfect, and rewrap. If there are no signs of infection in a week, we can stop the antibiotics and start light physical therapy to restore mobility. He nodded, his expression serious with a hint of hesitance. You explained it very thoroughly, I understand. I will comply. Thank you, Elena. When everything was done, she patted Milo's head lightly, and Mr. Corson took her hand and placed an envelope of payment on the counter. I want to pay the full treatment fee early so as not to trouble you. Please accept it. Although I am not wealthy, I deeply appreciate your efforts. Elena smiled kindly and shook her hand in refusal. It's okay, I'm just doing my duty. Your careful care for Milo is my joy. This clinic is small, the costs are not high. You only need to follow the care instructions. She looked into his eyes, seeing a flicker of quiet sadness, and wondered, is he hiding something? Why doesn't he want to pay? A part of her was curious, wanting to learn more. The man bowed and led Milo toward the dew-covered dirt road. When the door closed behind them, Elena still stood there, smelling the lingering scent on her lab coat, medicine powder mixed with the sea breeze. She reminded herself that today was a beginning of a journey, not only to heal Milo but also to heal her own heart, which had endured many wounds. But she did not know that from this moment, Liam Corson was secretly watching, balancing each beat of duty with a heart slowly stirring with emotion. Both were standing on different paths, yet fate had skillfully pushed them closer, drawing their hearts toward one another. At noon, Elena quickly ate a sandwich and a glass of warm milk. Her small kitchen had nothing special, just a few neatly arranged bowls and plates, but in that simplicity, she found comfort. She placed a childhood photo of herself with her cat Bong in a small album on the table, a keepsake she always carried. Looking at that photo, she remembered her first heartbreak when her boyfriend left her because she was too absorbed in animals. She had been in terrible pain, determined to focus only on healing animals and to avoid any romantic relationship. Now, Bellandre offered her a new story, but would she dare to open her heart to welcome happiness? She cleared her meal and prepared for the afternoon, when her next appointment was with a family who had a British short-hair cat that had just given birth. Everything proceeded normally, but in her heart, she still pondered thoughts of Mr. Corson and Milo. She couldn't deny the thrill spreading through her heart when she thought of him holding Milo and walking away. But she also cautioned herself, just focus on work, don't let yourself be distracted. The afternoon passed quickly with checkups, vaccinations, and guiding pet owners on how to care for their animals. The pale sunset gradually slipped behind the low coastal hills, casting bright orange-pink streaks across the sky. Elena tidied the clinic, turned on the warm yellow lights, and swept every corner of the tiled floor until it was spotless. When the old veterinary ambulance rumbled back to the garage behind the clinic, she picked up a broom to put it away, then smiled as she looked out through the glass window. They say Bellandre is most beautiful at sunset over the sea, and people's hearts grow gentler when greeting a new dawn. She sighed softly, feeling a lightness in her chest. At that moment, footsteps sounded outside the door. She looked up to see Mr. Corson standing there, looking awkward. He offered a hesitant smile. "Sorry, I forgot to take Milo's medicine bag. Could you give it to me?" She smiled and handed him the remaining antibiotics. He took it, and their eyes met for a moment. Elena felt her heart beat strangely, her blood seeming to rush faster. He said, "You work late. I hope I'm not bothering you further." She quietly replied, "If you need anything, the clinic door is always open. But if you just wanted to say goodbye, I wish you a peaceful evening." He nodded with a radiant smile, "Thank you, truly." Then he turned and left, but Elena still stood there, listening to his footsteps fade amidst the distant sound of crashing waves. When night fell, she returned to her little house. On her desk lay her veterinary notebook and a few veterinary magazines, quietly waiting. Before sleeping, she took the guitar by her pillow and slowly strummed a few notes she had composed. The gentle melody resonated like a soliloquy of solitude mixed with hope gradually creeping in. And that night, in her sleep, Elena dreamed of Milo running on the beach and the silhouette of Mr. Corson passing by the waves beneath his feet, causing her to smile softly even in her dreams. Spring mornings in Bellandre always carry the faint scent of the sea and newly sprouted greenery. As the early sunlight gently filtered through the dew-laden leaves, Elena Voss was already at the clinic quite early. She opened the door and stepped into the familiar room, feeling warmth mixed with excitement and a touch of anxiety. She looked around, the medicine shelves, the tool racks, the medical record cabinet, everything as usual. But her mind was counting down to Milo's next checkup, Corson's little puppy. She wondered whether the wound had fully healed this time, whether the puppy still felt pain, and what its owner, Mr. Corson, might say about his own life. Dawn shifted from mist to gentle sunshine just as the clinic doorbell rang again. Elena was preparing her examination tools, her eyes following the familiar figure stepping inside. It was Mr. Corson, Liam, accompanied by Milo. His eyes widened as if to confirm that she was indeed there. He bent down and gently placed Milo on the examination table, then looked up at her. In that moment, Elena's heart raced, a warm sensation spreading through her chest. She nodded lightly and smiled. "Milo seems more comfortable today, right? The wound is almost completely healed." Liam's eyes lit with excitement. He bent down to stroke the puppy's soft fur. "He does seem happier." "Thank you so much," Dr. Voss. He hesitated for a few seconds, as though wanting to say more, then continued in a slightly trembling voice, I've fed Milo all the nutritious food you recommended. He's been eating well, sleeping well, and he seems to be in no pain anymore. Elena carefully observed Milo's posture as he walked. She knelt down, placing one hand on the table for support, and asked gently, have you noticed whether he's moving normally? Any signs that he's still uncomfortable? Milo looked up at her, bright-eyed, wagging his tail happily. Liam smiled with relief. He's already run several laps around the backyard. Of course, I still limit his vigorous play, but he hasn't whimpered a single time. His voice carried a mix of pride and affection. While performing the final check on the wound, Elena felt her heart flutter strangely. She thought these emotions were peculiar. Was it the happiness of seeing a creature healed, or a twinge of something toward the man who always appeared alongside the little puppy? She took a moment to steady herself and continue her work. Yet deep within, a gentle hope glimmered, if only he knew that I care not only for Milo but also for him. However, Elena quietly maintained a courteous distance, never probing too deeply into his personal life, fearing she might intrude if she became too personal. After finishing the examination, Elena gave Mr. Corson detailed instructions on bandage changes and medication, then handed him a bag of long-term medicine along with comprehensive guidelines. He glanced at the instructions, his expression thoughtful. She noticed his eyebrows knit slightly before she offered a comforting smile. If you have any questions at all, just call me. I'm always ready to help. He nodded, his voice filled with gratitude. You are so thorough. I'm lucky to have found you. As he bent down to pick up Milo, his gaze swept over her once more, and she felt her heart tighten. That afternoon, after a steady stream of appointments, Elena took a brief break. She sat alone by the small window in the corner of the clinic, sipping a cup of hot black coffee. Soft music played from an old speaker, a classical piece, Debussy's Clair de Lune, making the atmosphere even more dreamlike. She closed her eyes, letting her finger trace the rim of the cup, imagining the vast blue sea and the rustling waves. A strange sense of peace filled her heart. But soon, concerns about the future crept in. Is this clinic enough for me to grow? Will Bellandre become my true home, or just a temporary stop? She sighed, her gaze thoughtful as she looked through the window, following the fishing boats with billowing sails in the bay. Suddenly, a light breeze opened the door, carrying the scent of salt and wild flowers from the shoreline. She turned and saw Mr. Corson walking in, this time holding a small card. He paused at a polite distance, then carefully placed the card on her desk. Elena was slightly surprised. He said, I just wanted to invite you to a small handcrafted goods exhibition I'm holding tomorrow afternoon. Not to trouble you, just thought you might be interested. The card featured illustrations of little bonsai pots and hand-painted ceramic wares, with the elegant heading Bellandre Handicraft Festival. Elena flipped it over, reading each line, then smiled softly, Thank you for thinking of me. I've never been to this festival before. Perhaps I'll find time to drop by. He nodded, his eyes reflecting a small joy. She glanced at Milo, who was sitting obediently at his feet, then looked back at him. Are you sure you just want to invite me, and not secretly want me to check Milo's bandage? He chuckled, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. Actually, I thought you might enjoy the artistic atmosphere and meet other pet owners. That's all. Elena smiled. I'll come. I'm sure the festival will be interesting. He looked grateful once more, bowed slightly, and escorted Milo out of the clinic. When the door closed, Elena stood still, gazing at the card in her hand. She told herself this might be an opportunity to learn more about Mr. Corson, not just about pets, but his interests, passions, and life story. Deep down, she realized her heart had begun to stir in a subtle way. The next day, Elena prepared for the festival with a fluttering heart. She chose a gentle pastel blue dress, letting her hair fall naturally, nothing too elaborate. Before leaving the clinic, She stretched, took a deep breath of fresh air, and looked out at the distant sea. She recalled her childhood, days on the farm by the river, alongside her white horse named Saul and her hound Marmalade. She remembered afternoon sunshine. As a child she would run alongside the horse by the river bank, her laughter echoing across the meadows. Those memories made her feel strong and warm. She told herself, perhaps Bellandre can help me reclaim those memories, when I was happy, living fully for my passion. Her bicycle was parked by the clinic door. She climbed on and pedaled gently toward the Handicraft Festival Square, where lively activity buzzed. The red brick road leading into the exhibition area was decorated with ribbons of bright yellow canola flowers. Booths displayed all kinds of handcrafted items, ceramics, knitted woolen goods, oil paintings, woodworking crafts, and jewelry made from seashells. Folk music played in the background, mingling with the chatter of visitors and locals. Elena inhaled deeply, her eyes shining as she took in the vibrant stalls. As soon as she passed through the festival gate, Lena, a friend from the clinic, waved at her from afar. Lena was the one who had guided her through the first few days at work. With a bright smile, Lena approached and kissed Elena on the cheek. You arrived just in time. The owner of that crafts booth is waiting for you over there. I see him standing under the willow tree. Elena was a bit surprised, looked around, and then spotted Liam Corson by a booth showcasing bonsai and small ceramic pots. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, hinting at latent strength in his arms. His handsome face bore a thoughtful expression. As Elena stepped closer, he tilted his head slightly in greeting, his smile widening as their eyes met. Milo ran forward, wagging his tail in joyful greeting, leaping up to plant wet kisses on her hand. Elena chuckled softly and leaned down to pet the puppy. Milo, you've been so good. Thank you for bringing him here today. He nodded, then took her hand and guided her to browse the booths. The first stall displayed oil paintings of seascapes. Elena stood silently before a large canvas blending ocean blues with pink sunset hues, making her heart feel as though it might stop. He explained slowly, this piece was painted by an artisan living in a seaside village. He was inspired by a particular sunset over the sea. Many say this painting captures Bellandre's spirit, romantic and full of hope. Elena smiled, her lips trembling slightly. It's beautiful. When I was small, I used to paint sunsets too, but I could never convey all the feelings. He gazed at her fondly, as if to reassure her, perhaps you should try again. You clearly have artistic talent. She blushed and looked away, feeling shy under his gaze. Milo frolicked between their legs, the little puppy's carefree enthusiasm adding warmth to the scene. Next, they visited the woodworking booth displaying wooden boxes engraved with seabirds in flight. He gently touched an oval-shaped box and spoke about the wood harvested from pine forests nearby. His voice was warm, filled with a love of nature. Elena listened with interest. Do you create these items just to sell, or for another purpose? He narrowed his eyes as he looked at her, then answered honestly, I make them to sustain a peaceful life when I'm not busy with other tasks. More importantly, I want a healthy environment where I can observe customers and draw inspiration from nature. As for my main occupation, let's just say I have a small business for now. She nodded, thinking that perhaps he didn't wish to share more. Yet his eyes were warm enough to reassure her. Together, they walked down toward the shoreline, where a fruit dessert stall stood decorated with smooth pebbles. Elena exhaled, breathing in the salty sea air, feeling as if she were replenished with energy. He treated her to a papaya and young coconut dessert, while he chose a jelly treat. As they enjoyed their treats, they talked about childhood memories. Elena shared stories of her first love on the farm, about her horse Saul and her dream of becoming a veterinarian. He listened attentively, then shared his own difficult childhood, losing both parents as a child and living in an orphanage. He never spoke of the specifics, only that he had to become independent early. His voice occasionally trembled, bearing a lingering sadness. Elena placed her hand on his, wanting to comfort him but hesitated, unsure whether she should cross that boundary. The closeness and warmth between them made her heart flutter even more. Dusk gradually replaced daylight as they left the exhibition tents and headed back toward town. On the old cobblestone street, the brick houses created a setting both quaint and modern. They stopped at a pale yellow sidewalk cafe, furnished with rustic rattan chairs. Elena ordered an iced milk coffee, and he chose a cappuccino. In the quiet moment, they sipped their warm drinks in silence. He looked up at her with a tender gaze. "You know, Elena Voss, every time I see you bathed in sea light, I feel my heart calm." Elena's throat tightened slightly, her eyes lifted, and she smiled softly. "I feel the same way. This world can be so chaotic, but when I'm with you, especially in a setting like this, I feel a peace I've never known." They sat in silence, allowing the gentle rain tapping on the willow tree outside to blend with the distant sound of crashing waves. The handicraft festival ended as the sun finally dipped below the horizon. The booths slowly closed up, and people began to disperse. Elena and Mr. Corson walked side by side and unexpectedly ran into Lena, her colleague, chatting with some familiar clinic clients. Lena waved and teased with a laugh, "Wow, you two make a lovely couple. Is that Mr. Corson? You look so happy beside him." Elena blushed and awkwardly replied, Yes, this is." She hesitated before quickly changing the subject. "Lena, what are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to be finishing up work early?" Lena grinned mischievously. "I stayed behind to check out some new crafts." "Oh, I saw Mr. Corson buying some beautiful ceramics. Maybe you'll find something you like." Elena nodded. Then she and Liam bid Lena farewell and continued on at a leisurely pace. On their way back, Bellendrae's streets grew sparse, with only soft yellow lights spilling through shop windows. She watched those lights reflected on the sea's surface and sighed quietly. In her heart, the moments spent with Liam were weaving into vibrant emotions. She wondered, should I trust him? Is he genuine, or is he just using me to stay close to Milo? Yet, the warmth in his eyes made her feel both eager and reassured. Milo leaped up, placing his small paws on her lap, as if wanting to share her joy. She stroked the puppy and gave a dreamy smile. "Milo, I feel like Mr. Corson likes me too. But I don't know what to do with this feeling." Milo licked her hand gently, as though responding, and she giggled. The next morning, Elena woke up earlier than usual. She decided to exercise, going for a jog along the beach. The sea was calm, waves gently lapping the shore, and a few fishing boats were moored nearby. She ran slowly, each footstep leaving a mark on the damp sand. The sea breeze blew strongly, her hair flying wildly behind her. The sense of freedom was overwhelming, yet in her mind she still heard the words of the man named Corson, how he said he felt peace when he was with her. She wondered, perhaps my heart has accepted this new feeling. But is it safe to open up? Could he be hiding something? That thought made her stop and listen to the waves. She decided that in life, sometimes one must take risks to find true love. She resolved to trust a bit more, depending on how he treated her. After her jog, Elena returned to the clinic and organized her work schedule. She received a message from Mr. Corson. "Good morning. I hope you have a beautiful day. If you're free tonight, shall we walk by the sea and have tea?" She looked at the message, her heart swelling with happiness. But she remained pragmatic, telling herself, I should ask a few more questions to be sure. She typed back, "Hello, I'm busy this afternoon with a minor surgery, but I'll be free tonight. Let's meet at 7 p.m. at the Seaside Tea House?" The message sent, she set her phone down with eyes shining. She smiled to herself, it's decided. But almost immediately, she felt a flutter of nerves. Should I ask more about what he does in the afternoon? He only said small business, but what exactly is it? She hesitated a few seconds, then decided firmly, I can wait for tonight's meeting to clear things up. That thought gave her renewed confidence. That afternoon, Elena continued with an appointment for a British short-hair cat suffering from an ear infection. Under the warm yellow light, she carefully removed the cotton swabs from the cat's ear, cleaned the inflamed area, and applied drops of medication. The cat's soft meow meow made her heart ache with tenderness. The next patient was a 12-year-old boy carrying a small white rabbit. The boy told her the rabbit had diarrhea. She gently reassured him and explained the proper care and diet. All the while, she focused on her work, but her mind kept drifting back to Liam Corson. She remembered the festival from the day before, his laughter, the fondness in his eyes as he looked at her. Those emotions felt like a melodious yet lingering tune, sometimes warm, sometimes stirring her heart. At exactly 7 p.m., the sky had turned a faint purple, and the sea breeze grew cooler. Elena wore a thin sweater, dark jeans, and let her hair fall naturally. She slung her small leather bag over her shoulder and cycled to the seaside tea house, a little wooden building with glass windows overlooking the sea. Inside, golden lights glowed, and soft music played quietly. A few wooden chairs and small tables were arranged by the windows for patrons to gaze at the sea. As soon as she stepped inside, she saw a seat by the window kept warm for her. Mr. Corson stood and greeted her with a smile. "You're here. Be careful, it's chilly." She nodded and returned his smile. "Thank you. The atmosphere here is lovely." She sat down. He pushed a cup of hot lemon honey tea toward her, then took a seat opposite. The space was quiet except for the sound of waves gently crashing, mingling with the soft music. Elena took a sip of her warm tea, the sweet tart flavor making her shiver with pleasure. She looked up at him with sincerity. "Thank you for inviting me." He exuded warmth, his eyes tender as he replied, "I just wanted to give you a comfortable evening." She hesitated a bit, then asked, "Could you tell me more about your work? You only said small business, but what exactly is it?" He smiled faintly, an air of mystery about him. "I run a small woodworking shop, specializing in handcrafted wooden and ceramic items. I also sell some bonsai plants and display them together. The shop isn't large, but it's enough for me to make a living." She nodded, curiosity shining in her eyes. "Where is your shop? I'd love to see it." He pointed toward a small hill where several moss-covered houses stood. "My shop is there, right next to the pine forest. You're welcome to come anytime you're free. You don't have to come just for Milo or an appointment." She smiled. "I will come. I want to see where you work." He nodded gently, his eyes sparkling. "Good. I'll be very happy if you visit." They continued talking about childhood, dreams, and future plans. He spoke of small projects he had done for the local temple, building wooden frames for Buddha paintings, or making little boxes to gift to visitors. She shared her plan to expand the clinic, to create a space for rehabilitating abandoned wildlife. They spoke passionately, occasionally smiling at each other, their eyes reflecting trust. They stared out at the sea, silently appreciating this peaceful moment. Elena felt her heart opening, ready to embrace a new feeling, though still guarded. When night fell and the sea breeze turned colder, Elena and Mr. Corson sat together, sharing their final cup of tea. She thought to herself, "Maybe I've found someone who can walk alongside me." He, gazing at her warm eyes, felt his heart fill with hope. Milo sat obediently at his feet, his ears drooping, occasionally glancing at them as if understanding the budding connection. When they rose to leave, he supported her as they stepped out of the tea house, then cycled together toward the shoreline, where the white wooden fence cast its shadow. The chill of the wind made her nestle against him, and he gently tightened his hand on hers, a small gesture filled with meaning. Elena felt his steady shoulder, the warmth spreading through her, and she allowed herself to believe that Bellandre was not only a place to heal animals, but also where her heart might find a home. Their story had only just begun. Yet through chance encounters and simple moments, the feelings between Elena and Liam Corson deepened. Both were gradually opening their hearts, each still holding secrets unspoken. The buds of love, mingled with hope and the vastness of the sea, waited to bloom brilliantly. In Bellandrae's dreamy night, Milo curled up at his owner's feet, his eyes half closed, as if quietly blessing the future couple. The next morning, the peaceful signal of Bellandrae's sea stirred Elena awake with a calm mind. Morning sunlight streamed through the glass windows, casting shimmering streaks of light across the walls of her room. She sat at her desk, sipping a cup of black coffee, her eyes following the calendar board hanging on the wall. Today she did not have many appointments, only a few weekly checkups, among which one was special. Mr. Corson and Milo would arrive for the final recovery check after a week of rest. A mixture of excitement and nervousness welled up in her heart. She wondered, what interesting stories might Mr. Corson bring today? Had Milo truly fully recovered, or were there still signs that the wound had not completely healed? By 9 o'clock, the clinic room was becoming busier. The doorbell rang, immediately drawing everyone's attention. Elena quickly stepped out, greeting them with a smile as she saw Mr. Corson carrying Milo inside. The puppy was much healthier now, his coat was smooth, eyes bright, and his gait nimble. She narrowed her eyes slightly, pleased. Milo looks so healthy. Mr. Corson, it's wonderful to see him recover so quickly. Liam replied, his gaze fondly on the puppy. You did an amazing job, Dr. Voss. I've been feeding him exactly as you instructed, and he no longer whimpers when he walks. Milo let out a soft, happy bark and wagged his tail. Elena knelt down and gently stroked the back of Milo's neck, her voice warm. That's great to hear. Today I just need to do a final check, change the bandage, and give a few more dietary instructions. She invited Mr. Corson to sit in the chair beside the examination table and quickly proceeded. As she removed the remaining bandage, she saw that the wound was no longer swollen, leaving only a faint scar. Elena let out a small sigh of relief, cleansing the wound with gauze, then applying a thin layer of antibacterial ointment, her movements decisive and professional. The lamp overhead caught the silver sheen of the ointment, creating tiny glimmers of light. She recalled the first time she saw that wound. Blood still sometimes matted Milo's fur, leaving her anxious. Now, seeing the obedient puppy lying quietly with his eyes closed, as if savoring the gentle care, she exhaled softly. Milo, you endured so much discomfort to recover. Thank you for being so patient. The puppy made a low murmur, closing his eyes as though responding to her encouragement. Mr. Corson watched this scene with a contemplative look, the corners of his mouth curving into a tender smile. After rebandaging the wound, Elena added, keep giving him antibiotics for 2 more days. Then allow him to bathe in warm water, but don't rub the wound too hard to avoid reopening it. Next week, you can bring him for light physiotherapy to help restore function. Let him lie comfortably, no vigorous running. You might use an elevated feeding bowl so he doesn't have to bend too low. He nodded, listening closely, then gently placed his hand on hers. Dr. Voss, if you allow me, I will follow every instruction. The gratitude in his eyes warmed her heart. She smiled and replied softly, of course. Milo has been very good, and I'm happy to give more instructions if needed. Just be sure to give him his medication on time. As Elena bent to pick up the prescription, Mr. Corson extended a piece of paper already filled out, his lips trembling. I want to prepare the medicine ahead of time so I'm not late. I also have a small gift for you. He handed her a small box wrapped in craft paper, tied with a pale blue ribbon. Curiously, she opened it to find a delicate silver necklace adorned with a finely engraved charm in the shape of Milo. Surprised, her eyes lit up with delight. Liam, you didn't have to give me a gift. This is such a surprise. He bowed his head, his voice catching. I just wanted to show my gratitude to you for taking care of Milo all this time. And I wanted to give you something special. A blush rose on her cheeks and her heart melted. Thank you. I will wear this necklace always, as a memento of Milo, and of you. He looked at her sincerely, then guided Milo as they left the clinic. Once the door closed, Elena tidied the clinic in a dreamy state. She placed the necklace on the small wooden table by the window, where the beam of light shone most brightly. Inwardly she thought, this necklace is not only a commemorative gift, but also holds the affection he feels for me. My heart really seems to be opening little by little. But then a twinge of worry surfaced. Will this feeling last? Is Mr. Corson sincere, or does he only care because of the puppy? Such thoughts gave her pause, but she steadied herself. Time will answer everything. She stretched her shoulders and took a deep breath of the sea salt air mingled with the warm scent of wood. At midday, Elena rushed through a plate of mixed avocado salad with chicken breast in the small corner of the waiting room. She didn't forget to turn on the old radio, letting gentle jazz music fill the air. The mellow saxophone, as if whispering of love, made her smile sweetly. Occasionally, she touched the silver necklace, feeling its coolness spread across her skin. She thought to herself, this tiny necklace is like a link between me, him, and Milo. But will he share more about himself? I need to understand him better. Her gaze fell outside the window, observing the low-rise buildings blending European architectural touches with modern designs. A few bicycles parked casually along the street, a handful of locals walking their dogs. Bellendrae's atmosphere was so peaceful, making one forget life's trivial worries. Her small wooden home on the outskirts of Bellendrae awaited her return after a day's work. She climbed the stairs to the study corner, where her veterinary notebook, specialist books, and a photo of her posing with Bong, her childhood cat, rested. Her guitar sat in one corner, next to a wooden box containing notes from her former mentor in Eastbourne, sent to her when she decided to move to Bellendrae. Those sweet memories made her smile. She placed the silver necklace on her dressing table, closed her eyes, and slowly removed her pristine white lab coat, hanging it on the hook. She gazed at that lab coat, so pure white, overflowing with memories of countless pets she had cared for, from a Maine Coon cat whose thick coat she'd trimmed to timid New Zealand rabbits. Each time she healed them, she had felt her heart meld with the pain and hopes of their owners. That is why she became a veterinarian, because she yearned to heal and bring peace. At noon, Elena decided to call Mr. Corson to schedule a seaside stroll for the weekend. She found his number in her contacts, her heart fluttering. When he answered, she smiled through the phone. Hello, Liam. Are you free this weekend? I'd like to invite you and Milo for a walk by the sea. It has been a while since we had a chance to talk leisurely. Her words prompted an excited, trembling reply. Yes, you've called at the perfect time. I'm completely free this weekend, just tell me where to meet. She responded decisively. Let's meet at 10 a.m. at the small North Harbor. I'll bring pastries and fruit juice. He nodded at the other end, then said, I'll be there. Don't forget to bring something warm, the morning sea breeze is chilly. She laughed. You are already planning ahead. I'll bring plenty. Hanging up, she stood up, noticing half the room suddenly bathed in golden afternoon light streaming through the thin curtain. The scene seemed to predict that good things were coming. That night, the image of Mr. Corson strolling along the beach with Milo haunted her thoughts. She lay in bed, gently stroking the silver necklace, imagining how they might breathe in the salty sea air together, with the sound of waves in the background. She thought, perhaps I've found a kindred friend, a bond that blends friendship and love. But I need more time to truly understand who Liam is. In a hazy dream, she saw herself running across the sand with him and Milo under a bright dawn, her smile wide and her heart beating wildly. She awoke with a quickened breath, her heart still racing. On Saturday morning, the sea breeze blew harder, carrying a chill through her window. Elena put on a thick sweater, a light wool scarf, and jeans, then mounted her bicycle and pedaled toward the North Harbor. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw Mr. Corson waiting on the wooden pier, wearing a dark brown leather jacket and black khaki pants. He stood tall, his hair tousled by the wind, his gaze fixed on the sea. Milo sat beside him, licking his lips, His ears perked as if listening to the waves. Noticing her approaching, he turned and smiled. "It's quite chilly today, isn't it?" he said, his voice warm. She nodded, tightening the strap of her bicycle. "Indeed. But I'm glad I arrived on time." He stepped closer and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "It's wonderful to see you. Shall we take a walk?" She smiled, glancing at Milo. Milo is excited too, but the strong wind might scare him. He looked down at the puppy, then bent to drape her scarf around Milo. "He needs to be warm, too." The puppy let out a soft woof in response. Watching that tender scene made her feel deeply warm inside. She thought, Liam cares for Milo so attentively, not just out of duty. His love for the puppy is spreading to me. They walked together along the wooden pier. The scarf fluttered in the sea breeze, which whistled softly around them. Beneath their feet, silver-crested waves shimmered on the water's surface. They fell silent, allowing their souls to harmonize with nature. Finally, Mr. Corson spoke slowly. "Are you comfortable with your work at the clinic? Are you not facing too many difficulties?" She nodded and looked up at him. "Everything's fine. The clinic is gradually gaining more clients, and friends here are very supportive." He smiled broadly. "I'm glad to hear that. I know you dedicate so much to your work. But don't push yourself too hard. Find time to rest by the sea." She replied softly, "I know, but I want to build things solidly. Just as I care for every animal, I also want to tend to my life little by little." He was silent for a moment, his gaze distant, as if wanting to hold her close but also respecting her aspirations. On the deserted beach, they paused before a row of tall casuarina trees, their fronds swaying in the wind. He pointed toward a sailboat gliding on the sea. "Do you like boating? I could rent a small speedboat and take you out to sea. The water here is so clear, you can see fish swimming below." She smiled. "I've heard Bellendrae's sea is beautiful, but I've never tried boating. Thank you for the suggestion." He reached into his shirt pocket and produced a small slip of paper with the boat owner's address. "If you're free, we can go next week. But only if you want, no pressure." She took the paper, her eyes full of gratitude. "I'm eager to go. It will be a chance for me to shake off work fatigue." He nodded and smiled gently. "Great. I'll be waiting." They resumed their beach stroll, their footsteps leaving long trails in the damp sand behind them. The sea wind tousled her hair, and he tenderly brushed a stray lock from her face, a small gesture brimming with deep affection. As the sun neared the horizon, they left the pier and walked along the seaside park. The scenery shifted to hues of orange, pink, and purple, casting an ethereal glow over everything. Tiny grains of sand danced in the sunset light, drifting into their eyes. Mr. Corson took her hand, the warmth from his fingers reaching her heart. She glanced at him, her cheeks slightly flushed. "Thank you for this morning. It made me feel as if my heart has found a haven of peace." He smiled gently. "If you feel at peace, that is my greatest desire." She rested her hand on his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his breath. "I never imagined I would find someone who understands me so well." He leaned closer, his eyes deep. "I feel the same. Since meeting you, I've realized I want to protect you." She saw a warm ember in his gaze and felt a surge of warmth and happiness. Bellendrae's night was truly serene. They sat on the wooden steps leading down to the beach, gazing at the sea under the distant lights. Milo curled up at their feet, occasionally drifting off to sleep as his ears twitched in the breeze. Mr. Corson pulled a soft wool scarf from his pocket and slowly wrapped it around her shoulders. "Are you cold?" She looked up, nodding gently. "Just a bit, but it's okay. Thank you for the scarf." He smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I hope it keeps your heart warm all night." She looked at him, her eyes shimmering. "Your words are as gentle as the night sea." They slipped into silence in that deeply emotive moment, letting their breaths entwine, the harmony of feelings and nature unspoken but profound. On Sunday morning, in her small room, Elena awoke with a sweet sense of joy. She ran her hands over the soft wool scarf, still faintly scented, recalling the night before. She smiled as she thought of Mr. Corson and Milo. Yet suddenly, a new worry arose: if I profess my deep feelings now, will he reciprocate? Or will I fear that he only loves me because of Milo? The thought startled her. She steadied herself. Let things unfold naturally. I need time to truly understand him. But at least, I know I feel genuine happiness. She rose and paused before the framed photo of her with her childhood cat Bong, then returned to prepare for the day's appointments. In the days that followed, the atmosphere between Elena and Mr. Corson grew ever warmer. They exchanged ideas about pets, future plans, work, and dreams. He invited her to visit his woodworking shop, where he handcrafted keepsake boxes. The shop sat atop a small hill, surrounded by a dense pine forest. They rode up a red dirt path to a quaint wooden house with its door slightly ajar, the scent of pinewood mixed with oil-based paint greeting them. He led her into the main room, where wooden shelves displayed bonsai pots and ceramic wares. He maintained a polite distance, but his eyes shone with pride as he introduced, "This is my workspace. Look at these wood carvings, every detail I carved myself. I aim to create pieces that are both refined and simple." She studied the space, placing her hands on the rough wooden table, feeling the grain under her fingers. Her eyes brightened as she observed each bonsai, the miniature trees balanced perfectly, their leaves arranged like green blossoms. She thought, Liam is not only caring toward Milo, he is also a talented artisan. She bent to examine a bonsai more closely, lightly touching its delicate leaves. "These plants are so soothing to the eyes, full of life." He nodded, his gaze sparkling. "Do you like them?" "I care for them daily to keep them healthy." She smiled. "Yes, what I do for pets is similar, attending to them little by little." He looked at her, a radiant smile on his face. "It's clear we share the same outlook on life." She hesitated, then asked, "How long have you lived in Bellandre?" He seemed a bit uneasy, his eyes flickering with sadness. "I arrived here a few years ago when I wanted to find a quiet place to work. Before that, I lived in many places, but Bellandre made me feel at ease." She nodded slowly, absorbing his words. "I understand. A place to heal wounds for people like you." He squinted at her, his gaze filled with emotion. "Perhaps so. I am still seeking peace." She felt a pang hearing him speak and wondered what he had endured. But she reminded herself, don't press him, let him share when he is ready. That weekend, they went out to sea in a small speedboat owned by a local boatman. The scene that unfolded before her eyes made her heart swell. The vast sea, water so clear she could see fish swimming below. Rippling waves lapped at the boat's hull, sometimes gentle, sometimes breaking into foam. The hum of the speedboat on the water became a lively yet soothing melody. Mr. Corson steered the boat, his eyes fixed on the bow, then turned to her with a contented smile. "Look at this sea, so beautiful it stirs your soul." She stood in awe, her eyes on the horizon. "Indeed. This view makes me forget all my worries." He nodded, pulling her scarf tighter around her. "Are you cold? Let me warm you." She exhaled, feeling the warmth from his arm. "You are so thoughtful." "Thank you." In that moment, the chill of the sea breeze on her skin faded into insignificance, enveloped by the warmth radiating from the man beside her. She thought, perhaps this is the moment to share my true feelings. They anchored the boat in a small bay where the water reached only mid-thigh. Mr. Corson retrieved 2 small wooden chairs from the cabin and set them on the sand. She walked slowly, holding the hem of her flowing dress, bare feet sinking into the cool, fine sand. He stood behind her, his hand lightly on her shoulder. "Are you scared?" She turned to him, her eyes bright with joy. "No. I only feel happiness." As she sat down, he sat beside her, placing his hand over hers, speaking gently. "Elena, I truly cherish this moment. Honestly, I have found peace when I am with you." She looked into his eyes, their gazes locking, her heart racing. In that instant, she could no longer hold back. She grasped his hands firmly and replied, "Me too, Liam. Since meeting you, my life has felt warmer." He hesitated, then slowly leaned in and placed a soft kiss on her lips. The kiss was unhurried but filled with tender passion. She closed her eyes, feeling the softness and warmth of his lips, the murmuring waves serving as a sweet soundtrack. When they parted, she wondered, could this be the true love I've been waiting for? Nature bore witness to their blossoming love. The waves gently lapped at their feet, tiny droplets of cool water splashing against their skin. He drew her into his arms in a protective embrace. She leaned her head on his shoulder, letting their breaths mingle. In that peaceful moment, she felt her heart both tender and strong. She knew that even though there were still secrets he had not shared, their genuine affection was enough to carry them through any storm. As the sunset deepened, they gathered their chairs and returned to the boat. The afternoon sea gleamed gold, the final rays of sunlight turning the water into a glittering field. They sat in silence, letting the warmth and the scent of the sea settle in their hearts. When they docked, they guided the boat ashore together, and Milo raced across the sand, chasing each lapping wave with happy barks. Elena laughed as she watched the puppy, then turned to him with bright eyes. "Thank you for this wonderful afternoon. I'll never forget it." He replied gently, "Nor will I. Let's keep today forever in our memories." Hand in hand, they cycled back toward town, hearts beating in unison. Bellendrae's night fell, streetlights flickered in soft amber tones, the air chilly but their hearts burning with warmth. With every step, every pedal stroke, they silently vowed to walk together toward whatever lay ahead, whatever surprises awaited. Back home, Elena found her kitchen still warm. She brewed a cup of chamomile tea and sat by the window gazing at the night sea. The steam carried a delicate fragrance that brought tranquility to her soul. She pulled out her journal, opened to a blank page, and slowly set pen to paper. "Today, I felt Liam's boundless love. I know he still holds secrets. But I trust his promise of peace and want to build a future with him." Her pen glided over the page, leaving gentle lines in its wake. She stacked the paper neatly, then looked out at the night sea, where tiny waves reflected distant lights. In that moment, she told herself, no matter what storms come, I will hold his hand. With a newfound love blossoming, spring in her heart felt alive, harmonizing with the serene expanse of Bellendrae. Their story had not ended but had merely begun, a bright new chapter unfolding against the backdrop of sea and sky. Early in the morning, when the first rays of sunrise timidly crept over the green mountain range, Elena Voss awoke with an indescribable sensation. She sat on the edge of her bed, her hand resting on the silver necklace engraved with Milo's likeness, her gaze drifting to the photograph of herself with Bong the cat from her childhood. A mixture of peace and warmth mingled with a hint of wistfulness, because she knew that just last weekend, a pivotal turning point had occurred in her relationship with Mr. Corson. Happiness still radiated through her heart, yet a small corner of her mind wondered if there remained secrets he had not shared. She sighed, thinking, am I being overly nostalgic, or am I afraid of the unknown? That thought sent a shiver through her as she recalled their earlier encounters, when he was gentle yet never fully revealed his past. She resolved that she would speak frankly soon, in order to understand each other more deeply. Her small wooden house remained quiet, the sea breeze drifting through the window, carrying the salty tang and scent of seaweed. Elena rose and stepped into the kitchen to brew a pot of chamomile tea, which she placed on the wooden table before settling into the chair by the window overlooking the sea. The sky was clear blue, the waves lapping gently against the shore, and a few fishing boats drifted lazily in the distance. The tranquil scene made her forget all the daily hustle. Still, she combed through her inner thoughts, seeking the courage to confront the uncertainties. The question circled in her mind, Mr. Corson promised to protect me, but is he hiding something? There is something in his eyes when he looks at me that makes me trust him, yet there are also silent moments when he falls quiet, and I do not know why. Resolved to find answers, she suddenly decided she must see Mr. Corson. She picked up the phone and called him. "Are you free this morning? I'd like to invite you to the clinic for coffee." On the other end, his voice quivered. "I'll be there right away." She smiled and set the phone down. As the sea breeze fluttered through the window, the distant horn of a boat sounded faintly. She brewed a pot of hot coffee and waited for him at the clinic. In the clinic's courtyard, the gentle sunlight streamed through the glass panes, making the pastel green walls appear even more vibrant. The medicine shelves were orderly, and the ledgers neatly arranged. She played soft music to deepen the warm atmosphere. Before long, the clinic door opened. Mr. Corson appeared wearing a simple khaki suit, his white dress shirt tucked in neatly, his hair still tousled from the sea breeze. His eyes brightened when he saw her. "Good morning, Elena Voss. Thank you for inviting me." She smiled and led him inside. "I've made coffee. Let's sit by the window, where we can look out at the sea." They sat facing each other, the morning light filtering through the glass, casting half his face in shadow. She placed a cup of coffee in front of him, then picked up her own and took a large sip, letting the sudden bitterness wash over her tongue. He watched her, concern flickering across his features. "Is there something you wish to say?" She took a deep breath to steady herself. "Liam, 2 weeks ago when we went out to sea, you told me you found peace beside me. But I know deep down you carry other burdens. I want you to share more about your life before meeting me. Although I know you work in woodworking and bonsai sales, I need to know more." His brow furrowed slightly, his eyes growing distant. "You are right to ask. I want to share, but I don't know where to begin." She remained silent, listening to her own racing heart, then spoke gently. "You don't need to rush. Just begin with the things that make you feel grounded. I do not intend to judge, only to understand so I can support you when you struggle." He nodded, his expression somber. "Thank you. I know I have kept many things hidden. But now, I am ready. Maybe you should know why I came to Bellandre, why I took up woodworking and bonsai sales instead of choosing a stable job from the start." She looked at him intently, hope swelling in her chest. "Please tell me anything, everything." He stared out the window for a moment before speaking. "I grew up in a rural family in northern England. My parents died early, leaving my sister and me in the care of our grandmother. I knew I had to support myself from a young age. At 16, I left my hometown and went to the city, working as a busboy, a cafe waiter, any job I could find to survive. Then one day, as a soldier on duty in the military, I was sent on a covert mission. That secret assignment took me into active war zones. After I left the service, I couldn't return to a normal life because of the relationships I'd formed in the shadows. I was forced to go into hiding and find a quiet place to start over. I chose Bellandre for its serene beauty, and because Milo the puppy was tied to a case I once investigated, a suspect abandoned him on a mountain road beside a stash of smuggled goods. She was stunned. She had never suspected his story would be connected to a serious crime. She set her coffee cup down, her eyes shimmering with curiosity. "That case? Do you mean the wildlife smuggling ring that's still active? I've heard locals whisper about a gang hunting rare animals, but there's never been definitive proof." He nodded, looking straight at her. "Yes. They trafficked endangered wildlife illegally. I was tasked with infiltrating that group to gather evidence, but I was attacked and assumed dead. I was kidnapped, drugged, and when I woke, my memory was fragmented. They implanted a new identity in me to serve their criminal agenda. For a long time, they used me, making me participate in their darkest operations, until I finally managed to escape, but with large gaps in my memory. I remember vague scenes of crowded city streets, cold concrete walls confining me in a cramped room, only blocked out by footsteps and cries of the victims." His eyes revealed the trauma of those recollections. She grasped his hand gently, her voice soft. Why didn't you seek help from the authorities as soon as you escaped? He shook his head. At that point, I didn't even know who I was. They wiped so many memories from me. I didn't know how to return, I didn't even know my own name. I wandered for a long time until a fisherfolk family took me in, teaching me to cook and fish. I became anonymous, and I was fortunate to find help from a local priest. He supported me until I was calm enough to contact an undercover unit, though I didn't know whether those criminals were still after me. Hearing this, her heart ached, and tears brimmed in her eyes. You endured so much agony. Why did you only share this with me now? He lowered his gaze, his shoulders trembling. I was afraid that if I revealed my wretched past, you would leave me. I didn't want you dragged into that darkness, didn't want you to suffer my fears. She reached up and stroked his cheek gently, her voice tender. Mr. Corson, I am not afraid of a brutal past. I fear that you continue punishing yourself, and I cannot help if you keep secrets. I only want you to know, there is me, there is Milo, and there is this beautiful life. If you want peace, give me a chance to find it with you. He looked deeply into her eyes, his gaze full of gratitude. Thank you, Elena. You have given me strength. I will not let you cry because of my past. They sat in silence, listening only to the soft roar of the waves outside, as if nature itself were witnessing the moment they exchanged trust. At midday, after he left the clinic, she quietly tidied up the desk, but her mind kept replaying his confession. She realized she had gained a new understanding of Liam Corson, not just as a man who worked in woodworking and bonsai sales, but as a former soldier who had thrown himself into dangerous assignments and paid the price with fragmented memories. Now, she understood why he always sought to protect himself with silence, haunted as he had been by his past. Standing there, she felt her heart widen. He has been deeply wounded, but now I want to be the one to heal his heart. That afternoon, Elena strove to keep her mind focused on her work. She treated a collie with arthritis, then a British short-hair cat with pneumonia. Each of her movements was gentle, but inside, she kept thinking, where is Mr. Corson today? How was he doing? She felt a chill fear that those wildlife smugglers once connected to him might pose a threat, yet she quickly brushed aside the worry, telling herself, if they are still out there, he will ensure I am safe. She forced a smile for each client, even as her heart fluttered. When night fell, she still had not received a message or call from Mr. Corson. That made her uneasy, but she understood he might be busy with his woodworking or reflecting on his past. She decided to give him space. She brushed her teeth, showered, and then sat at her desk. In front of her lay her journal, open to the last page where she had written, I will build the future with him. What is there to fear when we have each other? She stared out at the night sea, breathing slowly, her resolve firm. Mr. Corson, I believe you will never do anything to harm us. A small smile formed on her lips as she imagined them waking the next morning, walking Milo along the beach, letting the seawater swirl around their toes, their eyes meeting with love and trust. The next morning, she stood in front of the clinic, preparing for a new workday. Gentle sunlight filtered through the fronds of palm trees, illuminating the steps. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, feeling lighthearted. Suddenly, hurried footsteps sounded behind her. She turned to see Mr. Corson standing there, carrying a large backpack, his face showing both embarrassment and determination. In the soft morning light, he tried to smile. Good morning. I'm sorry I'm late. I have urgent business requiring me to go on an international trip. She stiffened, her gaze losing focus. An international trip? You. I didn't know. Why didn't you say sooner? He bowed his head. Please don't be angry. This mission is something I must undertake. You know, there was no other choice. She felt her heart tighten with pain. You're leaving again? But what is this mission? Why is everything still a secret? He looked uncomfortable, unsure how to respond. Finally, he only said quietly, I can't reveal much, but I promise to return as soon as I complete it. Please trust me. She let the necklace slip from her hand onto the desk, her lips trembling. I thought I understood part of you. But if you leave like this, I don't know what to do. He stepped forward and gently touched her hand. Don't be sad. I will keep in touch, but it will be difficult. Just look after Milo and the clinic for me. His voice cracked with emotion. She bit her lip, tears filling her eyes. I know you have suffered losses, but I don't want to lose you again. He squeezed her hand tightly and whispered, I know. I don't want to leave you either. But this work is something I cannot refuse. Trust me. When I return, I will explain everything. She tried to stay calm, her eyes wavering. I will wait for you. No matter how long it takes. He bowed and placed a light kiss on her forehead. She closed her eyes and thought, Mr. Corson, I trust you. Even if the world is full of challenges, I believe we can overcome them together. Liam Corson turned away, his tall, slender figure gradually disappearing beyond a row of reporter offices. She stood there, her eyes fixed on his retreating form, feeling an emptiness swell within her. Milo bounded up and nuzzled her hand as if to comfort her. It's okay, I'll live for him, for you, for this love. She bent down to hug the puppy, tears streaming down her cheeks. Milo, I will not let you be lonely. I will take care of us. She looked up at the clear blue sky, watching the wispy clouds drift past as if silently witnessing her vow to him. And as the sun climbed higher, she decided to reopen the clinic's door and step into a world both promising and challenging, despite knowing a perpetual emptiness awaited her until he returned. When Liam Corson turned onto the cobblestone street leading to his woodworking shop, each of his footsteps echoed like a resounding chord in Elena's heart. She stood leaning against the doorframe of her clinic, her gaze distant as she watched his figure disappear behind the low row of buildings. The steady murmur of clients in the clinic continued as usual, but to her, every sound seemed to fade away, replaced by the furtive pangs of pain and anxiety. Milo, her loyal puppy, wound around her legs and gave a soft whine as though to comfort her. He will come back. Take care of us. Elena bent down and gently stroked his ear, forcing back a sigh. I know, but my heart still aches. She retrieved the silver necklace engraved with Milo's likeness, feeling the cool metal against her skin as if reminding her that, though he had gone, their bond remained close and fervent. Throughout that day, Elena worked with conflicted emotions. She treated 10 cases, ranging from a Labrador retriever with chronic arthritis to a British Shorthair cat recovering from surgery. Every familiar detail of her work, cutting sutures, cleaning incisions, administering vaccines, helped her distance herself from her sorrow. Yet each time she saw grateful eyes in a recovering pet, she remembered the tender way Mr. Corson had looked at Milo as he healed. You can't always shut off your feelings, she told herself. But for now, my work will be my support so I don't fall apart. At midday, when the sun shone golden, she returned to her favorite sidewalk stall and ordered a bowl of chicken congee with fresh herbs. As she leaned over to scoop a piece of tender chicken from the bowl, a familiar voice greeted her. Elena, you look much thinner these days. She looked up to see Martha, the congee vendor, a middle-aged woman with a kindly smile, standing beside her. Martha had watched Elena since she opened the clinic and regarded her like a daughter. Elena forced a small smile. I've only been a bit busy, Martha. Martha slowly set the bowl of congee in front of her and clasped Elena's arm. You must eat well. Don't overwork yourself. I see you have been looking so sad. Anything you can't share with me? Elena hesitated, then gently shook her head. Nothing serious. I've just been busy at work, and I have to take care of Milo. Martha gave a gentle nod, though worry still flickered in her eyes. If things are too overwhelming, come talk to me. I'll add extra ginger to this congee to help you warm up. The warmth in Martha's voice touched Elena, and she bowed her head, pressing her lips together. Thank you, Martha. I will eat more carefully. That afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she returned to the clinic to prepare prescriptions for the next day. The room glowed with warm yellow light, The wooden desk held stacks of case files and neatly labeled bottles of medication. She began writing a prescription for antibiotics for a Persian cat suffering from pleural effusion. Her hand trembled and her thoughts drifted. Has Mr. Corson arrived at the airport safely? What is he doing in a foreign land? Does he miss me? These thoughts formed a thin mist over her mind, making her teeter between trust and concern. She flipped open her veterinary journal to the last page, pausing at the words, "I will wait for you, no matter how long it takes." The line pierced her heart and seemed to echo in her soul. She bent the pen and then set it aside, staring out the window. In the distance, a few stars sparkled as the waves lapped softly, as though whispering, "Lonely sorrow, unknown to itself, crashes upon the empty shore." She rubbed her eyes, attempting to banish the ache within. That night, she stayed up later than usual. After tidying the clinic, she went upstairs and sat by the small window, gazing at the silver waves beneath the faint moonlight. She picked up her guitar and plucked a few wistful chords of the ballad Hindsight, the melody painting late regrets in every note. "I only wanted to give my heart, though sometimes it shattered apart." She closed her eyes and let the music and memories wash over her. Each chord was a heartbeat of sorrow, each note reminded her she must stay strong. But then she realized, I cannot only live in the pain. I must still look toward the future. She set the guitar aside, stood, and walked to her desk, murmuring, "I must wake up early to prepare medicines for the 9 a.m. appointments." She lay down, closing her eyes, but Mr. Corson's image, Milo's wagging tail, and his smile remained vivid in her dreams. By the second day, since it had been exactly 3 days since his departure, her phone emitted a small ping. She paused while sorting files, hesitating as she read the incoming number, +44. She felt a pang but pressed answer. On the other end came his warm, hurried voice, "Elena, it's Liam. I'm sorry I couldn't call sooner. Things in Vienna have been quite tense." She inhaled deeply to steady herself. "Have you arrived safely? Is the work going well?" He paused, then continued, "Everything is okay. I just wanted to tell you I miss you and Milo a lot. Last night, they issued an urgent order to reroute me to Paris to handle a critical situation. I feared you would worry, so I couldn't call ahead." His voice held an urgency as though rushed from one train station to the next. She managed a small, tearful smile. "I understand. Take care of what you must. Milo and I will be fine. I just want you to be safe." He drew a deep breath, as if releasing tension. "Thank you. You are my motivation to keep going. I can't wait to come home." She swallowed hard and whispered, "Is there anything you need me to send?" He hesitated. "I'll let you know. For now, I must gather information quickly." She nodded, though he could not see. "I will wait. Please don't overexert yourself." He ended the call, leaving her sitting with her palms pressed together, trying to hold back her swelling emotions. She missed him, missed the warmth of his shoulder, his whispered "I love you." She told herself, "I love you, too, even though you are thousands of miles away." Time passed quickly, and 5 weeks slipped by since his departure. Elena had grown accustomed to the brief messages arriving on her phone. "I am safe. I miss you. I am almost done." Then, one day in mid-April, her phone buzzed with an unexpected call. "Elena, I'm at Charles de Gaulle Airport." Her breath caught, a cold sweat breaking out on her forehead. "You really are coming home?" On the other end, his voice echoed, "I'm on my way to Belindre. I missed you so much." She said nothing, simply standing there as tears filled her eyes and a gentle smile spread across her face. "I've been waiting for you." Finally, she and Milo were ready to welcome him back. Milo wagged his tail furiously by her side, as if sensing the joy to come. She gently touched the silver necklace and smiled at the soft patter of rain against the window. "No matter how many trials you face, I will wait as long as it takes. Because you are the final piece that makes my heart whole." On the night before his return, she slept later than usual. In her quiet room, the gentle sea breeze slipped through a crack in the window, painting soft patches of light. She lay in bed, placing a hand over her heart and listening to each beat, one beat for him, one beat for me, one beat for a love that still waits. Under the muted glow of the moon, she closed her eyes and pictured the next day, Bellendrae's sea shining brightly, Milo bounding to greet him, her mischievous little boy skipping with joy, and he looking at her, wrapping her in a tight embrace and whispering, "I love you." She smiled as she drifted into sleep, her heart brimming with hope and ready for the reunion she had long awaited. Liam's first morning back in Bellendrae dawned under a clear blue sky with soft, dreamy sunlight. When the taxi stopped in front of the small street, he opened the door and took a deep breath of sea air, the salty tang mingled with the scent of seaweed. Excitement and nervous anticipation churned in his chest. After months of roaming all over Europe, shoulder to shoulder with covert responsibilities, he was finally returning to her, she who had waited patiently. He offered a gentle smile and touched his left chest, where the old, worn police badge still lay. Though he no longer boasted of his profession, the memory of his missions lived in every breath. He quickened his pace as he spotted the red-tiled roofs peeking out behind the palm trees in front of the clinic. The palm trees lining the sidewalk shimmered in patches of sunlight, their shadows falling across the mossy brick pavers. He approached the clinic's door and knocked quietly. For a moment, there was no answer, and his heart skipped a beat. Then, as the door swung open, he saw her, Elena Voss, standing there in her white lab coat. Surprise and joy flickered across her face. Her expression was bright, but her eyes were rimmed with red, a clear evidence of many sleepless nights spent missing him. They stood in silent embrace, each breath echoing in the small clinic space. She finally gave a trembling smile, her eyes shining. You've really come back." Her voice was soft but rang like a mountain stream splashing on the shore. He closed the distance and gently wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. She pressed against his chest, inhaling the warmth of his skin. For the first time in months apart, he felt her heart beating strongly beneath his hand. He whispered, "My love, I'm back. I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting so long." His voice quavered, as though it could not chase away all the nights she'd spent longing for him. She wiped away the tear still lingering on her cheek. "I don't want apologies. I only know my heart was agonized and fearful, until now, seeing you here awakened it. Are you okay? Were you hurt?" He softened his tone and smiled, "I'm fine. A few old scars still ache if I press them, but I won't let them keep me from being with you." She gently released herself from his embrace and took his roughened hands in hers, tracing the calluses, signs of time and duty. Her eyes glistened with relief and gratitude. "As long as you are healthy, I am already happy enough." Though simple, her words brimmed with unwavering trust. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, then whispered, "Give me a small gesture to remind me that I truly have come home." She smiled and nodded, then lifted the silver Milo pendant he had placed on the table before he left. The necklace gleamed softly beneath the warm light, evoking a sense of comfort. He withdrew the photo they had taken together on the beach from her hand and kissed it. "Today, we will add a new photo. I want to live fully with you." They hailed a taxi to the seaside dock and sat on wooden benches, gazing out at the romantic sails. The waves lapped rhythmically against the pier, and the sea breeze lifted her hair, carrying the salty, sweet scent of the ocean. She leaned into his shoulder, resting her head on his strong frame. He wrapped an arm around her and smiled gently. "Do you like Bellendrae?" She looked down at his hand resting around her waist, her eyes shining with affection. "I do. Bellendrae has witnessed both my happiness and my sorrow. But now, there is only joy left." He lightly kissed her hair and whispered, "I've arranged a cozy evening in my woodworking shop by the sea, just for you and Milo. I want to thank you for waiting." She nodded happily, her eyes warm and suddenly bursting with light. "There is nothing I want more than time with you." They sat there amid the sound of waves and distant boat horns, letting the silence overflow with love. In the afternoon, they strolled through a wildflower garden by the coast, where golden daisies bloomed in abundance. The hum of bees was gentle, and butterflies alighted upon the blossoms, creating a natural tableau. She picked a single daisy and offered it to him, a keepsake for the day you came home. He looked at the flower and smiled, pinning it to her collar. I will keep it as a symbol of this new chapter in my life. Then they entered his woodworking shop. Warm yellow light bathed the shelves, each piece of pinewood radiating coziness. Lush bonsai and oil paintings of the sea intermingled, giving the shop a charming, nostalgic air. He led her to the main room, where a long wooden table displayed keepsakes, lotus-etched wooden boxes, wooden frames holding paintings of the ocean, and a small, neatly carved box featuring 2 dogs. In the center of the table rested a vase of fresh yellow daisies. He gently touched the blooms. I woke up early to choose the freshest flowers to welcome you. I want the difficult memories to fade, leaving only moments of peace. She gazed at the daisies, her eyes moist. You always know how to touch my heart. He offered a gentle smile and bowed slightly. You are why I returned. I feared that without you, I would wander lost among mysteries and missions. She took a step nearer, placing her hand on the wooden table, her eyes drifting into the distance. You have helped me believe in love again. I was afraid, always questioning everything, but now I no longer worry. He softly kissed her hand, his lips brushing against her warm skin. I know I was gone too long, and that must have hurt you. But please give me the chance to make amends. She nodded and looked at him with eyes brimming with emotion. I will give you that chance, not as restitution, but so that we can build the future together. In the hush of the shop, they looked into each other's eyes, feeling their hearts beat in harmony. That evening, they shared a warm dinner by the water's edge under twinkling candlelight. A small wooden table stood beneath the shop's overhanging lantern, overlooking the sea. A single candle cast a soft, golden glow. On the crisp white tablecloth sat a few delicate crystal glasses, evoking a timeless elegance. Mr. Corson placed before her a simple ceramic dish of pan-fried lobster rice with a crisp garden salad. She studied the meal and then looked up at him, eyes full of gratitude. You know I prefer simple but nutritious meals. He smiled and plucked a tender piece of lobster meat for her, murmuring, Eat slowly, so you can savor the salty sweetness of the sea. She nodded, picking up her chopsticks and placing the succulent seafood on her tongue. The sweet warmth flooded her senses and made her shiver with delight. She suddenly felt weightless inside. I haven't had a meal like this in so long. His eyes crinkled in tenderness. I want to make up for lost time. From now on, let's share every meal and every moment. She smiled and reached out to brush his hand. Thank you. I will cherish each second. The candlelight flickered and the waves glowed softly in the night, making the dinner feel more sacred than ever. After dinner, they walked hand in hand along the shoreline, for the first time since his return. She went barefoot, feeling the cool, fine sand under her feet. He held her hand tightly, as though determined to freeze this moment of happiness. The breeze stirred the air, carrying the scent of the sea and dispelling every worry. She nestled her head against his shoulder and whispered, I have dreamed of this day for so long. He drew her into his strong arms and said, From now on, you will never have to wait again. I promise I will never leave you. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, feeling his warmth seep into every fiber of her being. I trust you. The ocean waves lapped gently at their feet, each droplet shimmering beneath the pale moonlight. In that tranquil darkness, 2 hearts exchanged love, smiles, and vows for the future. Yet even in that perfect moment, neither of them realized the challenges looming just beyond the horizon. Under the brilliant moon, the once idyllic beach seemed to hide layers of secrets, as though the world were determined to offer hope only to snatch it away. Elena believed she had everything she needed: genuine love, the man who gave her hope, and an adorable puppy. Liam reminded himself, no matter what dangers lie ahead, I will not allow anything to hinder this love. But fate is often cruel. granting promise only to steal it again. And before their happiness could fully blossom, Liam's footsteps would hasten once more, carrying unspoken promises and untold secrets. The next morning, Bellendrae's sky was astonishingly clear. Everything appeared more radiant. Sunlight streamed through hanging palm fronds, scattering onto the sidewalk. Elena arrived at the clinic, heart racing, eager for the moment she would see him after that wondrous night. But as she prepared to open the door, she noticed a small yellow envelope resting neatly on the desk. No note accompanied it, only her name, written carefully, Elena. She opened it and found a small card inside, printed with a map of Europe marked by lines connecting several cities, Vienna, Paris, and London. Beneath it, a message scrawled in black ink read, "I'm sorry, but I have to leave on an urgent mission. Do not wait for me. I will contact you later." Signed simply, Elsie. She stood there, eyes wide, her pulse hammering. Her cheeks flushed as she clutched the card to her chest. This time, no sweet words accompanied it, only a cold reminder of emptiness. She felt abandoned in the radiant morning, the sea breeze still whispering softly, but inside her, only a vast void remained. Everything had happened so quickly and so lonely. She held the card as if it were her last memento, while he slipped away without a word. She understood, at that moment, that even the deepest love must contend with harsh realities. She lowered her head, gently touching the silver Milo pendant, then laid the card carefully on the wooden desk. Tears welled in her eyes and began to fall. "You are gone again, but I don't even know for how long." She lifted her gaze to the window where morning light streamed in, and silently vowed, "I will keep this clinic running, I will not let Milo go without care, and I will wait for you, no matter if it's tomorrow or a year from now." Words she had kept hidden now blossomed into a fierce pledge. No matter how far he roamed or how many covert missions he faced, she would wait for him. The waves outside lapped gently against the shore, as though cooing reassurance, "Be patient, the winds will shift, and dawn will return." She offered a faint, hopeful smile, pressing her hand to her heart, "I will wait for you, across all distances." In that quiet moment, Bellendrae seemed to hum a poignant, wistful melody, yet one suffused with hope for the days to come, where love and trials would walk side by side. When the first rays of dawn peeked over the green mountains, Elena Voss stood motionless at the clinic's door, still holding the small card he had left on the wooden desk. The emptiness spread through her body like a summer river dried to its cracked bed. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, forcing the pain back inside. The small clinic suddenly seemed drowned in darkness, even though daylight still streamed through the glass windows. Her heart felt frozen as she reread the scrawled lines, "I'm sorry, but I must leave on an urgent mission. Please don't wait for me. I will contact you later." She placed her hand over her chest, where the old police badge lay silently, and wondered, is any promise of peace still possible? The clinic was utterly silent. The whispering of the nurse bending to check the medicine, "Dr. Voss, a client has arrived," echoed faintly in her ears. She slipped inside quietly, letting the door close behind her. In front of her stood an elderly couple with a limping beagle on a leash. Shaking off the rumpled vestiges of her sleepless night, she braced herself and resurrected her professional composure. Though her heart pounded, she forced a warm smile and said in a clear, steady voice, "Good morning. Please tell me about your dog's condition." Her throat was hoarse, but each word sounded steady, betraying none of her inner turmoil. The couple took turns answering. "His name is Bingo. He's over 10 years old and has chronic joint pain." Elena crouched down and gently stroked the dog's head as she examined the swelling around his front knee. Inside her mind, the image of Liam Corson, his gentle gaze as he had led her through that stormy night, flickered like a distant echo, mingling with the relentless roar of imagined waves. She fell silent, focused on Bingo's inflamed joint, then sterilized the skin around it with antiseptic, applied an anti-inflammatory ointment, and bandaged it deftly and decisively. In that moment, Tending to animals became her lifeline, the only thing anchoring her heart to keep it from shattering. When the examination was complete, she wrote out a prescription for anti-inflammatory medication and advised the owners to make sure Bingo took it on schedule and to limit his walking. They departed, leaving her alone among the four silent walls, sunlight filtering through the curtain slats. She sank into a chair, placing a medicated compress in her hand, and exhaled. Time seemed to stretch, while her longing for him surged as fiercely as the coastal wind at dusk. She wondered, after this mission ends, will he truly find peace? Or has he plunged deeper into unseen secrets, so that when duty calls again, he will vanish down another lonely road? In the days that followed, all of Elena's routines revolved around the clinic. Each morning, she jogged along the beach, allowing the sea breeze to carry away any tears she hadn't yet shed. Bellendrae's beach in summer was radiant, sunlight glinting across silver waves, each swell rippling like a soothing lullaby. She let Milo run freely, sometimes picking up a seashell or watching flocks of gulls wheel overhead. On days when the sun burned too brightly, she would pause, crouch, and scoop fine sand into her palm, thinking, is the fragile piece I own too delicate to preserve? Back at the clinic, she stepped into a hectic bustle. A new veterinary nurse had joined the staff, so Elena could delegate intake tasks and focus on writing prescriptions, ordering supplies, and scheduling regular vaccine deliveries. Some afternoons, after the clinic closed and the medical equipment was unplugged and bottles dried, she lingered in the stark white room, flipping through the gift journal he had signed for her, Dr. Voss, A Mission to Heal. She opened the book and read the turquoise ink. I know you will face every challenge, because your heart is strong and compassionate. Reading each word, she imagined him standing beside her, his gaze tender and consoling. She closed the notebook and let her shoulders tremble. In her heart, he remained present, even though his footsteps now tread some distant, foreign land. Summer months slipped away, and Bellendrae transitioned into autumn as the palm fronds began to fade. The sea breeze still carried its salty warmth, but the dawn chill hinted at winter's approach. Elena adjusted her schedule to take one afternoon off each week, so she could spend extra time with Milo and occasionally stop by the seaside coffee shop where Martha brewed a rich cappuccino. Sometimes she called him during European hours, only to hear his sigh across the line as he reported on his mission, I'm in Lisbon. Safe and sound. She would press for more details, but he always said, I can't share much now. I'll tell you everything when I return. That vague I can't say more stirred equal parts worry and trust in her. She reassured herself, perhaps he is still working to gather evidence. Whatever happens, he still cares for me. She smiled to comfort herself and ended the call, glancing at Milo, who lay curled up and sleepy. Winter arrived, and Bellendrae felt as though it were slipping into hibernation. The palm trees stood bare, their fronds long since fallen, leaving their trunks reaching toward a gray sky. Drizzle fell in fine threads, the air growing colder, and the sea's waves pounded the jetty with fierce insistence. Elena bundled up more for her runs, wearing a thick sweater, a wool scarf, and a snug beanie. She still took Milo for walks along the damp sand. Once in a while, he would stamp his feet into the puddles, making her laugh. But often, she walked alone, braving the biting wind and letting it fill the gaps in her heart. She dared not cry, because she needed to maintain a strong front in the clinic, for the pets who depended on her care, and save her tears for the day he returned. One winter afternoon, when an unusual flurry of snow drifted down, since true snow was rare in Bellendrae, only a few flakes usually fell rather than a blanket, her phone rang. The familiar +44 number appeared on the screen. She smiled, her heart racing. You could have called a little earlier to tell me to dress warmly. His voice trembled as if he had been running through the snow. I'm sorry. It's colder here than I imagined. But I've completed a crucial part of my work. She leaned back against the sofa in the clinic's break room, squinting through the frost-speckled glass. Are you sure you're all right? I've been so worried. His tone grew warmer. I'm fine. I wanted to let you know I'll return to Belindre next week. This assignment took longer than expected because of some unforeseen complications. But I've gathered enough evidence to dismantle the illegal wildlife trafficking ring. When I come home, I want to hold you and Milo in my arms. Tears sprang to her eyes, and she smiled. Be careful. Don't rush and get yourself into danger. He sighed. I will be careful. And I can't wait for that day. After hanging up, she placed her phone on the desk and gazed out at the moonlit sea, shards of flake like snow melting on the sand. She whispered to herself, he will come back. I will wait. Even if snow lies between us, I will endure. Milo lay curled beside her, his warmth seeping into her as she drew a deep breath to soothe her heart. The day he returned finally arrived. On a late winter morning, she received word that his flight had landed. Her heart leaped and raced. She threw on a long coat, donned her wool hat and thick scarf, grabbed Milo's leash, and pedaled her bicycle toward the harbor. The sea wind still cut through her layers, but each breath gave her resolute strength. At the dock, taxicabs and buses whirred as passengers disembarked in the small historic seaside town. Then she spotted him. He was wearing a heavy coat, a worn suitcase slung over his shoulder. He looked around, sweeping his gaze until it found hers. In that moment, the bustling scene seemed to vanish. Only she and he remained, locked in each other's eyes. He opened his arms and strode toward her. She ran to him, and the two of them, with Milo between them, embraced. She held him tight, letting their warmth unite. He set his suitcase down on the muddy sand and wrapped his arms around her, kissing her hair. His voice choked, "My love, I've finally returned." She pressed her head against his chest, her heart racing with joy. "You really came back. I thought I would wither away waiting." He whispered near her ear, "I'm so sorry I left you alone for so long. But now, I promise I will never leave again." She looked up at him, tears of relief glistening. "I waited for you day and night. I always knew our love would conquer any trial." He squeezed her tight and kissed the corner of her mouth. The sea roared behind them, as though soothing their reunion. "We have weathered the storm, and now we welcome a new dawn together." They walked hand in hand along the shore, letting the waves lap at their feet. Milo danced around them, barking happily as if he recognized the joyous occasion. She clasped his hand, each step on the soft sand carrying the warmth of two hearts intertwined. They stopped on a small rocky outcrop beside the rusting remains of an old pier, where the sea's surf crashed beneath them, splashing white foam. He wrapped his arms around her from behind and placed a hand over her heart. "How does it feel to embrace the sea and our present happiness?" She rested her head on his shoulder and closed her eyes, inhaling the salty air. "I feel peaceful. The waves will never stop, just as our love endures, no matter the storms, we stand together." He kissed her hair gently and whispered, "Together, we will begin a new life. Not only a mission to heal, but a vow that will last forever." That afternoon, they walked Milo back to the clinic, where a bright future awaited them. The small room, its bottles and medical instruments still in place, seemed to hum with promise. They sat together by the window as sunlight filtered through white curtains, bathing everything in a warm golden glow. He drew an old leather wallet from his pocket and took out the photograph of her beside the little motorboat from their last trip. "I want to hang this picture right here so that everyone who brings their pets to the clinic will know about our great love." She smiled, tears of joy rolling down her cheeks. "You are so thoughtful. I need nothing more." He bent down and kissed her, while Milo leaped up and licked their hands, sharing in their jubilant reunion. And in Belindre's cozy winter air, Elena and Liam kindled a new hope together. They understood that challenges still lay hidden ahead, but now they had each other, Milo, and a steadfast love. The sea still roared at the window, each silver wave washing away the past and carrying in bright, warm days to come. Their story, from their meeting beneath the small wooden roof, through the tender emergence of love, to the tense moments of covert missions, and ultimately their radiant reunion, had weathered countless storms to arrive at this perfect, peaceful moment. Bellandre remained unchanged, its vast beach, the salty sea breeze, and the ceaseless, rhythmic surf continued to bid farewell and welcome any courageous heart that dared to love. And Elena, once a lonely girl cradling Milo in the winter snow, had become a strong woman, ready to build a home with the man she loved amid the boundless ocean, so that their love would bloom like the wildflowers clinging proudly to a rocky cliff, enduring and steadfast against every gale. The weeks after Liam's return passed in a tranquil sweetness that Elena had once believed only existed in dreams. Bellandre's late winter slowly surrendered to the coolness of spring, as clusters of golden rapeseed blossoms dotted the cobblestone path leading to the sea. That same spring, Elena's clinic buzzed busier than ever, woolly Labradors arriving for booster shots, free health check days for roaming cats, and even lop-eared rabbits with constipation or vitamin deficiencies. A few pigeon owners drifted in too, seeking advice on pet care, though sometimes they simply wanted to confide their life struggles to her, carrying away nuggets of nutritional counsel. In hindsight, it was that very flurry of activity at the clinic that eased her anxiety about the months of separation. Every morning, around 7 a.m., she would leave her little wooden home, pulling a small rolling bag containing an apron and her warm water thermos, with Milo bounding at her side. On sunny days, she walked beneath a canopy of casuarina pines along the cobblestone path, the sea breeze rustling through the leaves like a soft melody, blending her heartbeat with the ocean's rhythm. More than once, she paused to gaze at the vast blue horizon, where the spring wind howled, and wondered, "Where are you now? Do you remember these waves? Do you remember the silver necklace engraved with Milo, which I wear every day?" Then she would shake her head and smile, certain that the days of longing were behind them. Now was a time for savoring their peace. Her clinic stood on the main road, flanked by small houses that combined modern English style with touches of old-world European charm. Floor-to-ceiling windows allowed dawn's light to flood every nook. On one wall hung photographs of her with rescued cats and dogs, opposite that was a small bookshelf stocked with veterinary texts, common treatment protocols for dogs and cats, seasonal nutrition for companion animals, and so on. Next to the reception desk, fresh flowers, white roses or sprigs of lavender, were replaced daily to neutralize the antiseptic scent and create a sense of calm. Many pet owners, upon entering, praised her gentle aesthetic, saying it felt like a seaside resort's cozy clinic. That morning, Elena arrived earlier than usual. By 6:30 a.m., she was in the clinic, washing her hands before brewing a cup of fresh green tea under the warm glow of a yellow lamp. While waiting for clients, she flipped through a veterinary magazine, planning her next steps, expanding the clinic, acquiring diagnostic equipment, specifically a compact ultrasound unit to detect internal issues in pets, and, most importantly, hiring an associate veterinarian and an administrative assistant. Then she could devote herself fully to her specialty work and spend more time with Liam. Looking back on the months when she had managed every task alone, welcoming clients, conducting exams, administering vaccines, scheduling appointments, keeping records, she realized that whenever stress overwhelmed her, a run on the beach to inhale the fresh air had recharged her spirit. A short while later, footsteps sounded at the door. She turned to see Liam standing there, wearing a warm enough jacket and a beanie that tamed his wind-blown hair. His eyes lit up when he saw her. "Good morning, Elena. I didn't want to miss the moment you begin your day." She smiled, eyes brimming with affection. "Did you rest well? You got back late last night, and now you're already here." He stepped inside, pressing a light kiss to her cheek. "I heard you wanted to meet early to discuss expanding the clinic. I'll fully support you." She hesitated for a heartbeat, her eyes shining. "You remember everything? I was afraid I might misspeak, and you'd correct me." He nodded, his gaze warm. "I never forget anything you share. So trust yourself. I'll help." She took a deep breath, letting his love wash over her, and said in a confident voice, "Tonight, Let's go look at some spaces in the Tuyen-Tiangyang neighborhood, a 3-story building that would be perfect for our second clinic. I already called the broker. They'll meet us at 6 p.m., he grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Perfect. I'll clear my schedule. You run the main clinic without worry. She nodded, looping her arm through his. You should eat something first. I left some chicken sandwiches and hard-boiled eggs at the snack station. He smiled and kissed her once more. Thank you. I'll shower and be right back. She watched him go with a rush of joy, knowing that their once frail bond was now as solid as the ocean's rhythm. A full hour later, the first client of the day arrived, and Elena launched into another busy day of never-ending appointments. A golden Labrador named Hero came in to have his postoperative leg checked, a Persian cat with matted fur arrived for vaccinations, then a domesticated harbor seal with a mouth ulcer caused by spoiled food. The busy pace left no time for idle thoughts, but her heart pounded whenever she recalled Liam seated at his wooden workbench, carving delicate pieces, proof that veterinary medicine and woodworking had perfectly harmonized in their lives. That afternoon, seizing a moment to breathe, she sat at her desk, opening a notebook and sketching out preliminary plans for the new clinic. She envisioned, on the ground floor, a reception area and basic exam rooms, on the second floor, an ultrasound and X-ray suite, on the third floor, a small surgery room and a quiet space for long-term patient care. She also wanted to create a little Instagram corner for pet owners, cozy seating, bookshelves filled with veterinary literature, and soft lighting, so they could relax rather than feel nervous while waiting. She drew large windows overlooking a small lavender garden, imagining Liam helping her tend to it, bringing a breath of nature inside. She smiled to herself, feeling as if his hand rested on her shoulder, lending her strength. Though he was not physically present, the memory of him shaped every detail of her design. Late that afternoon, as the last sunlight slipped below the horizon, she finished her notes and prepared to close up. Milo, her ever-faithful puppy, sat expectantly by the door, tilting his head as if to ask, "Why are you still here? Where is he?" She smiled and ruffled his ears. "Don't worry, Milo. He'll be back as soon as I call." She stepped outside, where he had promised to meet her. A street lamp flickered to life, painting a soft yellow path across the quiet road. There he stood, holding a steaming sandwich and 2 cups of milk tea with tapioca pearls. When he saw her, he beamed. "You've been working hard. This is your quick dinner. I figure nothing warms you more than a hot sandwich and cold milk tea." She laughed brightly, delighted. "You really understand me. I've been craving something hot to chase away the fatigue." He handed her a cup of milk tea, holding the sandwich out to her. "Eat it while it's warm, so it doesn't get cold." She accepted the tea, gazing at him with eyes full of warmth. "Thank you for knowing those little details, making me feel so loved." He nodded, leaning in to press his nose against her forehead. "It's a small thing, but I want you always to know I'm here." She closed her eyes and sipped the sweet tart tea, then bit into the crisp, buttery sandwich. The melted cheese and savory sauce warmed her from the inside. In that moment, she realized that sometimes happiness doesn't require grand gestures, just genuine warmth. After their quick dinner, they cycled along the coastal road. The sea was even more vast beneath the sunset sky, streaks of pink and orange dancing on the silver waters. The sea breeze teased her hair, sending a cool caress over her skin. She nestled into his shoulder, laying her head against his sturdy chest as her eyes drank in the returning fishing boats stowing their nightly catch. In a hushed voice, she said, "You know, I never imagined this place would become my haven of happiness. I thought I'd have only a small clinic, Milo, and nights of quiet solitude. But now I have you." He fell silent, gazing out at the sea before glancing down at her, his eyes radiating tenderness. "Me too. I thought I'd spend my life in the shadows, only secret missions, drab comrades, and endless darkness. But meeting you taught me what it means to love. Everything about you became beautiful to me, like a gem unearthed in the ocean. She smiled, feeling her soul lift. So no matter where you go again, I'll wait. I'll wait because I believe in our story. He tilted his head, placing a gentle kiss on her hair. That story won't end here. I want us to keep writing it together, even though storms will come. The ocean's surf responded in a distant roar, as though heralding the coming summer. One weekend, they sat side by side on a small hillside overlooking the sea, a favorite spot since his return. Elena brought a veterinary textbook, he carried his woodworking notebook. Together they scribbled notes and shared ideas about expanding the clinic, designing rehabilitation programs for pets, and crafting friendly wooden shelving. Sometimes, they simply held hands and talked about their relationship. Next year, I want us to take a trip. There's a lavender festival nearby, I'd like to celebrate the success of the satellite clinic there. He nodded, his eyes bright. I hope by then everything will be in place. I want to show you Provence's endless lavender fields. Wherever the world may be, you are the one I want beside me. She smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. I will wait for that day. Our love deserves it. He squeezed her hand. We are a team. I will protect you just as you protect this clinic and our little Milo. She laughed softly. I will protect you with my truest love. They sat in silence as the late afternoon sun glowed through their interlaced fingers. The ocean's murmur seemed to bless their vow. Time moved on, and autumn arrived with mist and drizzling rain. Belindre grew quieter, its streets emptier, but the satellite clinic remained busy. One afternoon, Elena received a request for remote support. A veterinarian in a large city needed her to consult on a feline sepsis case. She agreed at once, biked to Liam's woodworking shop for a quieter space, booted up her laptop for a video conference. Liam watched from a corner, nursing a cup of strong black coffee, his gaze fixed on her as she worked. She methodically guided the local pet owner through sharing images of the cat's tongue and gums, noting signs of infection. When the case review ended, she brushed damp hair from her face and exhaled. That was tough. I'm glad I had a colleague to consult with. I need to prepare antibiotics and arrange for blood transfusions. He came over and placed a hand on her shoulder. You did amazing. I'm proud of you. She turned to him with misty eyes. Thank you. I was afraid I'd lose my composure if things went wrong. He squeezed her shoulder, his gaze loving. You always remain calm. I trust you. She smiled, leaning to kiss his cheek. With you as my anchor, I feel strong. That year, Belindre hosted a grand fall festival. Elena's satellite clinic partnered with several other pet shops to set up an exhibition booth, promoting pet care services. She and Liam decorated their booth with sprigs of yellow daisies, displayed promotional panels describing clinic services. Milo, dressed in a smart little vest, stood proudly at the front, acting as the mascot to attract visitors. Patrons would exclaim, "Is that the clinic's mascot?" She laughed, "He's our good luck charm. He's been by my side since I opened the first clinic and now this one." Milo barked happily and licked her hand, drawing admiring oohs from children wanting to pet and photograph him. Liam stood nearby, beaming, "He's adorable, everyone wants a hug." She stroked Milo. "I've nicknamed him Treasure, the family's most precious gem." Hearing that, a little girl and her mother gasped, "We want a special name for our puppy too." "This is so fun." Elena turned to explain naming traditions and then described their heart-healthy echocardiogram service. Liam brought her a cold watermelon juice, placing it before her. "You've been busy all day. Here's something refreshing." She took the glass, glancing at him with grateful eyes. "Thank you for noticing the little things that make me feel so loved." He smiled, his eyes shining. "We built this together. You deserve every bit of joy." As the festive crowd milled around, the late autumn sun cast a warm glow on his hair and her cheeks, illuminating all their months of hard work. From the early days of the first clinic to the completion of the satellite clinic, and now the fall booth, every milestone had been marked by sweat, and sometimes tears. Yet throughout their journey, she and he shared every moment, the fear and worry of separation, the joy of reunion, the late nights studying veterinary science, the hours spent tending a small lavender patch. Now, standing side by side under Bellendrae's sky, they understood that love was their binding force through every season. Although more challenges surely lay ahead, unresolved criminal investigations, critical emergency cases, or lonely nights when one of them had to be away, they still had each other's shoulders to lean on. And so, every morning when the sun painted pink streaks across the sea, they reminded one another, though the ocean is vast and storms may batter us, we will walk to the end of this path together. Bellendrae remained serene and poetic, Milo still bounded and barked happily, and the love of Elena, a strong yet gentle veterinarian, and Liam, a steadfast, dedicated undercover officer, continued to blossom like vibrant lavender clinging proudly to rugged cliffs, undaunted by cold or storm. Life might send them down many winding roads, but this love would always be their truest compass, so that each returning sunrise would meet them with a shared whisper, "We chose well." Bellendrae blazed with autumn splendor, golden sunlight still lingered on the cobblestone path, yet crisp, cool breezes hinted that the fiery season was nearing its end. In Elena and Liam's satellite clinic, lights glimmered here and there, the lavender blooms had begun to wither, yielding to the pure white asters. Everything appeared tranquil, but beneath that calm surface, taut undercurrents of tension were starting to stir. That morning, Elena gently unlocked the clinic door and inhaled deeply the scent of fresh wood from new cabinetry mingled with the fragrance of asters and disinfectant. The scene was as usual, a few long-haired dogs lay waiting, silently listening to their owners' stories. A young couple, shyly cradling a Persian kitten, stepped inside. But she noticed a flicker of hesitation on the face of her assistant, Tao. Placing a stack of files on the desk, Tao spoke softly, "Dr. Voss, there's a veterinarian from the city who's here urgently. She says it's a now or never case." Elena glanced at the wall clock. It was only 7:15 a.m., quite early for any scheduled appointment. She felt mildly dismissive, assuming it would be yet another case of pneumonia or end-stage cancer, conditions she'd tackled countless times before. She nodded, concealing her unease, and said, "I'll see her after I finish the preliminary exam on this kitten. Tao, please show her into the satellite clinic." A knot of apprehension tightened in her chest. Those phrases urgent and right now often preceded bewildering, heart-wrenching cases. Minutes later, Elena entered the satellite clinic, its interior gleaming brightly with natural light streaming through large windows. The ultrasound room lay behind frosted glass to ensure privacy. She passed by and opened the main exam room's door. There stood a female veterinarian in her 30s, her hair tied neatly, dark circles under her eyes betraying a sleepless night. Clutching a sealed biohazard container to her chest, the veterinarian's hand trembled as she spoke. "Dr. Voss, I heard you excel at examining biological specimens and analyzing antigens. Could you help me with this unusual case?" Elena nodded, concern flickering in her eyes. "Show me the sample," she said. Taking the sterile white box in hand, she lifted its lid. Inside, a round worm, a dozen centimeters long, writhed in a test tube of saline. At the bottom floated dozens of tiny parasites like glints of mist. Elena held her breath for a moment, imagining that this sample had come from a dog of over 20 kilograms whose stool was hemorrhaging. The visiting veterinarian hurried on, "My dog, Golden, has had a high fever, acute blood loss, severe diarrhea with worms and fresh blood over the last few days. I read some reports about capillaria infestations in Phu Quoc dogs in the Mekong Delta, but Golden is critical now. I heard you treated parasitic cases in cats. Could there be any hope?" Elena drew a deep breath, steadying herself. "First, I'll examine the worm count and run a blood panel. Right now, Golden needs a blood transfusion, 4 fluids, and a high-dose anthelmintic. Please have him brought into the treatment room immediately." The other veterinarian agreed, guiding Golden into the surgery suite beside Elena. After administering a broad-spectrum antibiotic intravenously and starting blood and saline infusions, Elena's hand trembled as she injected a high dose, double the usual, of praziquantel directly into the capillaria roundworm. Her mind raced. If the worms have invaded Golden's liver or kidneys, the toxins could cause cardiac arrest at any moment. Yet she pressed on, channeling the last of the blood through the fourth line as the surgical nurse assisted. The operating room fell into silence, broken only by the rhythmic drip of fluid, each heartbeat drawing fresh blood into Golden's frail body to wash away his weakened breaths. Perched on a stool, Elena murmured, "Hold on, Golden. Just 15 more minutes." 15 minutes later, Golden's blood pressure stabilized and his breathing eased. Elena exhaled in relief. "Stay here for the next 24 hours, she told the veterinarian. "Lieutenant Ling will assist you." She stroked Golden's short golden coat, her eyes filled with compassion. "In 2 days, you'll bounce back." That urgent crisis proved only the beginning of a series of bizarre incidents, signs that the wildlife trafficking ring still lurked in the shadows, now quietly preparing new routes to evade law enforcement. Days later, with Golden on the mend, Elena and Liam decided to analyze the worm and parasite specimens retrieved from Golden's gastrointestinal tract. They planned to use the small laboratory on the 3rd floor, where Liam had set up a 4-light bright field microscope and a proper incubator for microbial cultures. Elena brought the roundworm samples into the lab, carefully spreading segments of capillaria onto glass slides and adding drops of staining solution to examine their anatomical structure. Liam meticulously noted in his leather-bound notebook, adult capillaria, 15 to 18 centimeters in length, stomach segments riddled with multiple oval nodules. Parasite density, over 1,500 organisms per liter of feces. Beneath the microscope's yellow glow, Elena's determined yet weary eyes studied the parasite features. "Check whether this matches previous reports," she urged. "I suspect they're evolving to resist praziquantel." From behind, Liam peered at the slide. "Exactly. If we rely only on praziquantel, they'll develop resistant strains. We need to combine it with other anthelmintics and add hepatoprotective and rhinoprotective agents." Elena nodded. "I'll order newer antiparasitics and enforce strict biosecurity procedures, sterilize instruments, isolate suspected cases, and educate owners on regular deworming." Working side by side, they recorded data and analyzed parasite morphology under the microscope, as though battling an invisible but lethal foe. Even amid the laboratory's clinical glow, they felt each other's presence, their shared love and mutual resolve forging them stronger. The following morning, Elena welcomed an unexpected case, a barred parakeet from a neighboring district, brought by a wildlife rescue group. The bird's rescuers nicknamed him Hachiko, because he had followed their food truck for miles. Elena performed a physical exam and discovered his bill chipped in several places, scarring on his legs from old wounds, and large patches of missing feathers. According to the rescuers, they had found Hachiko locked in a small wooden crate, wrapped in barbed netting and plastic sacks, resting on a mound of foul livestock manure. Under the autumn glow of the satellite clinic, his parched eyes still flickered with tenacity. Gently cradling Hachiko, Elena turned to Liam. "Do you think this is a new sign of the wildlife trafficking ring re-emerging? Barred parakeets fetch a high price, they're in demand on the black market." Liam nodded gravely. "Not just that, they're probably using these birds as leverage, funneling them through exclusive channels to wealthy buyers. My bet is they'll send Hachiko overseas if we don't act fast." Elena's eyes brimmed with anger. "How cruel. He's severely malnourished and likely has stress-induced pneumonia." Liam gently placed Hachiko in a special care enclosure. "Don't worry. We'll nurse him back to health, then arrange for a licensed conservation organization to reclaim him." She exhaled, her gaze steely with determination. "I'll track this case closely to gather evidence against them." He clasped her hand. "We'll do it together. You saved Golden, now you'll save Hachiko." In his words, she heard both encouragement and a fierce confidence, assuring her that no matter how perilous the road, they would face it side by side. That afternoon, as cool breezes began to carry a gentle chill, Elena and Liam met briefly with the local environmental police. Through Liam's introduction, Lieutenant Huang, head of the Wildlife Crime Task Force, set a thick dossier on the table. These are preliminary investigation files. We've identified several addresses and phone numbers linked to parakeet smuggling and reptile trafficking. But the ringleader remains elusive, too cunning. They use aliases and change SIM cards constantly. Elena opened the folder, scanning the classified documents, detailed purchase and sale prices, quantities shipped each time, and surveillance photos. She shuddered. "Captain, I suspect this ring is not limited to smuggling parakeets, they likely traffic other wild animals too. They cultivate ties with wealthy clients. If we rely solely on phone records and photos, it will remain difficult to trace their top echelons." Liam's face darkened. "Exactly. I've identified a clandestine warehouse in the coastal area near Bin Min Bay. That's where they store their contraband before smuggling it abroad. I've been investigating covertly for months, waiting for the right moment to gather ironclad evidence." Lieutenant Huang interjected, "Our customs partners are monitoring shipments, but without solid leads, we can't raid the warehouse. Whenever we target a number, they relocate to new hideouts." Elena proposed, "If I offer treatment to their captured animals under the guise of a veterinary consult, we might draw them in, as undercover bait, giving us the chance to collect more evidence." Lieutenant Huang's expression brightened. "Brilliant. Liam, brief the team and the techs on how to ensure Dr. Voss's safety in the field masquerade." Liam turned to her with resolute eyes. "I'll ensure you're protected. But if you detect anything suspicious, pull back immediately and radio for extraction." Elena inhaled deeply, determination flaring. "I'm ready. After saving Golden, I can handle this. And Hachiko, I won't let him suffer any more." Lieutenant Huang nodded, then addressed Liam. "Coordinate with the forensic laboratory to send the worm samples and Hachiko's specimens for DNA analysis." Liam responded, "I already arranged for that. I'll send over Golden's samples as well." The meeting ended with a sense of urgency yet hope. That night, in their shared wooden home, the wind occasionally whistled around the window frames, carrying the ocean's salty tang. They sat together before a small fireplace on the second floor, just a pinch of embers dancing but enough to chase away the chill. Elena laid a hand on Liam's shoulder and looked up at him. "Tomorrow, I'll pick up Hachiko from the rescue center and bring him to Belindre General Hospital for further testing. I pray we find no other contagious illnesses." Liam draped a knitted blanket over her shoulders, whispering, "I'll go with you. I won't let you go alone." She smiled and set her tablet on the table. "I just need your help with security. I've stocked all the meds and parasitology supplies." He bent to kiss her forehead. "I'm proud of you. You're the best wildlife vet I know." She looked up tearfully. "And you're my strongest support." They sat in silence as the firelight flickered on a photograph of them with Hachiko, taken on his first day at the clinic. 1 week later, on a crisp, crystal-clear autumn morning, she and Liam climbed into a rented pickup truck carrying the steel aviary that held Hachiko, who was now recovering at the rescue station. As the vehicle rumbled down the hillside towards the sea, Liam sat in the passenger seat, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Have you finalized our route for today?" he asked. Elena sat in the back with her heavy veterinary kit, a portable rapid test setup, broad-spectrum antibiotics, antifungals, and a handheld oximeter, strapping Hachiko's aviary securely. She inhaled deeply, all set. "Once we arrive at the environmental police station, we'll discuss sending Hachiko's DNA sample, then proceed to the covert raid site in the old tunnel to identify the traffickers." Liam nodded, resolute. "I've notified Lieutenant Huang, the special ops team will be waiting. Rest assured." She smiled lightly, resting back into her seat, the ocean wind tousling her hair as she tried to still her fluttering nerves. We must succeed so Hachiko can return to his rightful wild home. Liam patted her shoulder, then looked at the aviary where Hachiko chirped softly, a sound of hopeful gratitude. He must be thankful for you, Liam murmured. The way you gave him fresh water that first day gave him new life. Elena smiled, pressing her hand against the aviary. I just hope he stays calm enough for the SWAT team to hit the hideout. At the station, they briefed Lieutenant Huang and the SWAT contingent. A large map spread across a table showed suspected operation zones, including an abandoned seaside hut connected to the tunnel system. Elena pointed to a narrow passage beneath a grove of mangroves. This tunnel runs about 200 meters through a cajeput forest, leading directly to that abandoned hut by the bay. Hachiko was smuggled out through here. Lieutenant Huang nodded and asked, how many officers will be on reconnaissance duty? Liam replied, 10 in all, divided into 2 units. Team A will ambush the entrance to the tunnel, Team B the exit. When we bring Hachiko here, we'll use a secure code to trigger the operation. Dr. Voss will pose as a rescuer of exotic birds, luring the traffickers in. I'll station myself outside to ensure her safety. Elena's determination shone as she said, understood. I'll carry Hachiko into the tunnel and follow their trail. When they show themselves, I'll give the code over the radio. You all will move in. Lieutenant Huang added, be careful, Dr. Voss. These traffickers may be armed or desperate. You'll wear soft body armor, and we'll have medics standing by. Glancing at Liam, Elena nodded, I'll follow protocol. With that, the SWAT team departed carrying their protective gear and weapons, ready for the night's stakeout. That evening, under a canopy of early stars, Elena donned her thin yet sturdy body armor and wrapped a warm scarf. Liam escorted Hachiko in his aviary to the mouth of the tunnel, where a mossy, weather-beaten tree marked the entrance. She lifted the cage and took a steadying breath before stepping inside. The tunnel's interior was pitch black, illuminated only by the narrow beam of her headlamp, which cast flickering circles on the damp, packed earth floor. The echo of their footsteps resounded in the chilly air. Her heart pounded, legs trembling, but she maintained a calm voice to soothe Hachiko. Stay brave, she whispered, almost home. Hachiko's yellow-green eyes glimmered as if he understood each word. Reaching the tunnel's midpoint, she paused and clicked on her phone's flashlight function for a faint additional glow. Now, she whispered. Liam, a few paces behind, nodded silently, prepared to act instantly. From the distance, shuffling footsteps grew closer, then turned down the corridor. Elena and Liam pressed against a jagged rock outcropping, listening intently. Soon, 4 men, heads wrapped in scarves, brandishing AK-47s, appeared in the tunnel's faint light. They carried wire mesh cages housing dimly seen forms, prized birds, venomous snakes, vibrant lizards. Elena's breath hitched as she spotted Hachiko's enclosure placed among them. Her beloved parakeet stared at her with bright, pleading eyes, then fell silent, huddled in fear. The traffickers thought themselves safe in the night's shadow. One of them stepped forward and spoke in a harsh whisper, new shipment tonight, whoever hears won't resist. Bring everything here. He stared at Hachiko's cage, lust gleaming in his eyes. Elena's pulse raced. Liam, are you ready? She murmured. At that instant, Liam grabbed her hand and gave a quick nod, the signal. Within a heartbeat, laser sights from both ends of the tunnel cut red lines across the darkness, pinpointing the traffickers. Over the radio crackled a command, action. In mere seconds, the tunnel erupted into chaos. The traffickers, startled, tried to raise their rifles, but a hail of coordinated, suppressed gunfire from the SWAT team incapacitated them, shots aimed not to kill but to neutralize. One trafficker dropped his weapon and stammered, "You've got the wrong people. Hachiko doesn't belong to us." Elena slipped from behind her cover, retrieving Hachiko's cage, and sprinted toward the SWAT officers subduing the remaining suspects. Lieutenant Huang stood in the corridor's center. "Protect the parakeet. Move him outside immediately," he ordered. Liam strode in, surveying a tangle of giant pythons, venomous cobras, and dusty wooden cages of exotic birds, evidence of a trafficking operation more sinister than she had imagined. "All items have been secured," he told Huang. "We'll seal off the scene. Dr. Voss, please escort Hachiko out." She hugged the cage to her chest as her eyes filled with relief. "Hachiko seems to calm down now. Thank you." Hachiko gave a soft caw-caw, as though expressing his gratitude. She dashed out into the fresh night air, her heart pounding with triumph. That night, the captured traffickers were taken into custody, and the smuggled wildlife, flower peckers, crested murres, emerald green lizards, mambas, tortoises, were sealed for forensic investigation. Liam, Lieutenant Huang, and a forensic team examined the tunnel, uncovering packets of narcotics and molds used to produce falsified animal products, proof that this ring trafficked not only live animals but also sold their exotic organs for elite dark cuisine banquets. Liam grimly noted, "They are exploiting wildlife for profit and catering to deranged feasts. We must dig deeper or they'll rebuild their network." Lieutenant Huang's voice was firm. "You and Dr. Voss have broken a major link. We need to investigate the tunnel's full extent, perhaps even sea routes." Liam nodded. "I'll focus on that, but we must shield Dr. Voss and Hachiko, they're living witnesses." Huang agreed. "She risked her life to treat these animals. We'll ensure her safety." The next morning, a bright dawn cast pink hues across the sea. Elena and Liam held a short debrief. Seated in the satellite clinic's exam room, sunlight streamed through large windows onto a photograph of a newly rescued Hachiko. She looked up at Liam, her eyes glistening despite sleepless nights. "The ambush was a success, but I worry that the ringleaders are deeper underground." He met her gaze with unwavering resolve. "I worry too. Only middle managers were caught, old Snakebin remains at large. I've shared his profile with the National Criminal Police." Elena nodded, her gaze shifting to Hachiko, who now lay contentedly in his cage. "All I want is for Hachiko to be fully healed and return to the wild, so he never suffers again." Liam exhaled. "I'll make sure that happens. I've contacted a certified sanctuary to handle his release. Just keep doing your best. I will always be by your side." She gave a grateful smile and squeezed his hand. "Thank you for believing in me." Sunlight painted tiny patterns on their faces, as if affirming their shared trust despite the lingering darkness. That afternoon, as wind-blown leaves drifted through the crisp air, Elena returned to inspect the tunnel's entrance one last time. Yellow warning signs and CCTV cameras now guarded the overgrown opening. Lieutenant Huang stood beside her, solemn. "We'll station officers here around the clock. No one enters or exits." Elena replied, "I'll add more do not enter signs and upgrade the surveillance cameras." Huang nodded and guided her to the old pier's archway, where waves crashed and cast shifting reflections. "Liam is arranging phone tracking for the traffickers. When Bin reappears, we'll trap him." She gazed at the sea's shimmering expanse. "Like the depths hiding beneath, they watch, waiting to resurface?" he asked. Elena exhaled softly. "Yes. But I trust your dedication. I'll keep monitoring Hachiko's health in the meantime." Huang pressed his radio to his shoulder. "Shifts over, everything is in place." Elena stowed her phone in her lab coat pocket and headed back to the clinic, where Hachiko sat perched securely in his cage, preening newly grown feathers as though thanking her for his second chance. That night, under a waning moon, Elena and Liam settled on the second-floor balcony, sharing thick slices of bacon-wrapped toast from Jimmy's diner. Milo lay curled by their feet, occasionally yawning in the cool breeze. Elena sighed, stroking Milo's silky coat. "We've weathered so much together, yet mysteries remain unresolved." Liam gazed at her, his voice gentle in the autumn hush. I know. In recent weeks, I've worried that the ring's leaders could strike back at either the clinic or at us. Elena nodded, eyes thoughtful. I saw a black pickup parked suspiciously under the clinic last night when I was moving Hachiko. It made my heart race. Liam frowned. It could have been nothing, but we'll reinforce security, add more cameras, increase patrols at the tunnel entrance. She gave him a reassuring smile. I want that too. Only then can I care for patients without fear. He leaned over and kissed her forehead. Be reassured, everything will be fine. Trust me. She looked up at the starlit sky. I wish tomorrow would bring calm. He smirked and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I wish that too, but we must stay ready. She closed her eyes, leaning against his chest. With you by my side, I'm not scared. That peaceful night stretched on until the moon set, giving way to a rosy dawn over Belindre. The town appeared as serene as if no dark scheme had ever been afoot. The waves whispered against the shore, reminding everyone that change is constant and nothing remains static. Though winter would soon slip in, Elena and Liam's satellite clinic blossomed with spring's spirit, rooted in compassion and dedication. They knew the wildlife ring might surface again, but for now, they were prepared. Together with Milo and Hachiko, they would continue their story, a life woven from celebrations of rescue and healing, tempered by sorrow and steeled by resolve, so that each new sunrise in Belindre shone full of hope. A thin layer of morning mist clung to the delicate asters lining the hallway of the satellite clinic as the sun peeked over the horizon. Elena Voss stepped onto the porch and inhaled deeply the earthy scent of damp soil after last night's rain. A cool breeze slipped through her light sweater, causing a shiver, yet her heart brimmed with confidence. Their campaign against the wildlife trafficking ring was halfway complete. The clearest proof came after the tunnel ambush. Lieutenant Huang and the environmental police had since arrested 2 more mid-level leaders of the syndicate, including one known by the nickname Seafood. But a few cunning operators still hid out in neighboring cities, scheming to continue capturing and smuggling endangered animals abroad. Elena and Liam's mission remained largely undercover because the traffickers were so adept at concealing evidence, even doctoring veterinary records. She sighed and slowly turned back inside, where Milo awaited, his bright little eyes shining with curiosity. She stroked his fluffy coat. Busy morning ahead, sweetie, she whispered. A big Asian Russell's viper needs emergency treatment at Belindre General. Milo gave 2 soft barks, as if acknowledging her words. The satellite clinic had grown into a fully functional facility, a reception area on the ground floor, ultrasound and X-ray rooms, a small surgery suite, and a ward for long-term patient stays on the 2nd floor. The 3rd floor saw less use. It served as a library and research center, where Elena and Liam studied specialized veterinary texts and maintained epidemiological and criminal case files related to wildlife trafficking. A heavy wooden table, one of the first she'd crafted by hand, stood beside a tall bookshelf laden with books. Last night, she had stayed up until dawn documenting rare case files and forwarding them to the Ministry of Agriculture's Forensic Department, so investigators could trace the origins of parasites discovered in previous smuggling busts. She awoke from a dream in which Hachiko soared across a clear sky, an apt reward for all her efforts. That morning, a young man named Quan, perhaps 25 years old, arrived carrying a nearly 2-meter Asian Russell's viper with a large open wound across its belly. Nurse Tao quickly ushered the mysterious patient into the clinic, while Elena donned sterile gloves and gently collected tissue samples. The snake writhed anxiously in Quan's arms, its breathing wheezy, its eyes wild with fear. She stroked the viper's scales softly, her voice soothing, "Don't be afraid. I'll do my best to save you." Quan looked up at her, anguish etched on his face. "He's the only companion I have. I found him deep in the forest and raised him, but somehow he was gravely injured." Elena nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "This is a deep wound, either from a fall or possibly a deliberate attack. I'll follow an emergency surgical protocol and start 4 fluids, but we must first check for venom toxicity. Quan took a steadying breath, hands trembling as they gripped the desk drawer. I'll cover all the expenses. Please save him. Elena offered him a gentle smile and murmured, all for a friend, right? Then she turned to focus on closing the belly wound, administering fluids and antivenom with Nurse Tao's help. When the surgery concluded, she placed the viper in a recovery enclosure beneath a heating lamp. Liam arrived soon after, worry flickering in his eyes. How did it go? He asked. She wiped sweat from her brow, her eyes a bit red from fatigue. It was tough, but he's stable. We stopped the infection, yet we must observe him for another 3 days to ensure his liver and kidneys are not compromised by the venom. He assessed the situation and nodded. Good. I'll send someone to stand guard, no interference from bad actors. She smiled back. Thank you. In that moment, she remembered her younger self, used to treating ordinary pets, yet now skilled enough to perform surgery on a venomous snake. The growth in her abilities felt immense. That afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the clinic windows, Elena received a call from Lieutenant Huang. Dr. Voss, we have an urgent case near Lock River, a rescued red-faced macaque displaying unusual parasitic infection. Our preliminary team says they've never seen this parasite in local monkeys. She grimaced inwardly but answered briskly, I'll be there shortly. She glanced at a photo sent via phone, an image of a frightened, mud-caked monkey, and then at the clock. Liam, can you take me to Belindre General? The ambulance is tied up with another emergency. He replied without hesitation, I'm at the woodworking shop. I'll be right there. She hurriedly gathered her scrubs and supplies, whispered to Milo, who barked happily, back in a little while, okay? Climbing into Liam's pickup, they headed for the Lock River rescue site. The rural road wound through verdant hills, morning sunlight dancing on leaves. Elena's nerves fluttered as she gripped a small biohazard kit containing emergency test vials, potent antiparasitics, antivirals, and a handheld oximeter, knowing she might face a pathogen she'd never encountered. Liam reached over and gently squeezed her hand. Don't worry. I'm with you. She offered a grateful smile, eyes damp with emotion. We must succeed, so he can live freely. Arriving at the rescue compound, they were met by the local police escort. The air was still except for distant insects. A rickety wooden footbridge, dappled with sunlight, led them to a makeshift quarantine area where the macaque lay curled in a filthy metal cage. Elena crouched down and pressed her ear to the bars, hearing ragged breaths and soft groans. She took a step back, steadying herself. At least he's still breathing. Liam pulled a portable microscope from the truck's cargo bed. She peered at his instruments and said, symptoms indicate an acute infection, likely pentastomata parasites affecting lungs and bloodstream. If we delay, respiratory failure is imminent. Regaining her composure, she prepared antiparasitic and antiviral medications. Liam handed her sterile gloves. You handle him, I'll coordinate his transfer back to Belindre, he said. She nodded, voice firm, understood. After sedating the monkey gently and administering life-saving drugs, they loaded him for transport. She whispered over his cage, hang in there. We'll get you home. As the truck rolled away, she glimpsed the monkey's hopeful eyes, evidence of fragile trust. That night, as they monitored the macaque in a specially outfitted isolation ward, complete with heating lamps and sterile sheets, Elena and Liam worked through the late hours. She infused a steady stream of medications, while he recorded vital signs. Day 1, temperature 39 degrees Celsius, respiration 60 breaths/minute, heart rate 140 beats/minute. Day 2, 38 degrees Celsius, respiration 52, heart rate 130. She exhaled, brushing the macaque's matted fur. He's improving, hopefully stable by tomorrow. Liam nodded, determination in his eyes. He is, but keep observing for 2 more days. She offered him a weary smile. "Thank you." Outside, an autumn breeze whispered through a cracked window, bringing a slight chill. Yet, they did not loosen their vigil. Beneath the lamp's warm glow, they had become one in purpose, to save a small, precious life. The next morning, sipping bubble tea at a kitchen table, Elena's phone buzzed with an incoming call from Lieutenant Huang. Dr. Voss, a red-backed squirrel monkey, Pithecia, was rescued on a farm near Amlak. He shows signs of respiratory illness coupled with a strange parasite. "We need you there immediately." She drew a deep breath and looked at Liam. "We must go." Liam set down his cup of coffee. "I'll drive." "Let's move." She changed into her lab coat, stuffing 4 fluids and diagnostic kits into her backpack, then gathered Milo into Quan's arms. Milo barked excitedly, as if sensing it would be an adventure. She patted him. "Stay here with Quan and Nurse Tao. We'll bring the monkey to safety." They sped off toward Anlak, the morning sun glancing on the bay, the wind tousling her hair. She closed her eyes and fought the knot of worry in her chest. "We have to prevent any chance of an outbreak," she thought. "Our duty isn't merely to heal animals but to protect entire communities." Liam glanced at her, giving a reassuring smile. "We'll do it together," he whispered. "No matter how fierce the storm, we'll weather it side by side." When they arrived at the farm, the police escort led them to the recovery pen. The squirrel monkey lay listless in a small, filthy cage. Elena knelt and released a supporting dose of anti-inflammatory fluid, gently checking for infection. Liam snapped photographs and then murmured, "This is so severe. He needs 4 antibiotics and antiviral treatment immediately." She nodded, glancing at her mobile lab workstation as she said, "I'll run a quick field test to identify the virus strain." Nearby, a rescuer named Quan, who had cared for the monkey, paled with anxiety. "We can't keep them all here. Normally, these monkeys thrive in troops and eat fresh fruit. Captivity weakens them." She rose and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Your good intentions saved him. Now we have to move him to a full-service wildlife hospital outside the province." Quan hesitated, "But he needs more cells tested for the research group studying zoonotic viruses." Elena turned to Liam, eyes steady. "We'll help with research, but first, he must be stabilized. Let's get him to the lab immediately." Liam nodded and began prepping the monkey for transport. "I've arranged for a secure carriage," he said. "I'll send samples to the Pasteur Institute once we arrive." She swallowed nervously. One slip could spark an epidemic, she realized. Yet Liam's voice fortified her resolve, "We'll protect him and the public." After successfully caring for the monkey, Elena and Liam arranged for transport to the wildlife hospital. In the pickup's bed, the cage rattled on a bed of soft bedding as the monkey clung to her cap like a tiny passenger. She stroked his damp fur. "I hope you'll make a full recovery," she whispered. Liam's gaze softened. "Thanks to you, he has a chance." She managed a faint smile. "As long as you're here, I have hope." The truck carried them into the fading day. Though they knew even greater trials lay ahead, they were ready. Their love shone like a beacon in a storm, bright and unfading. In the small world of Belindre, they remained a stronghold of compassion and courage, weaving the next chapter of their journey, where devotion and duty intertwined, so that every sunrise brought them forward in hope. A light dusting of winter's mist lay on the red roof tiles of Belindre as dawn's first rays pierced through the dew-soaked pine trees. The wooden house where Elena and Liam shared their life lay silent in the bitter cold, broken only by the soft hiss of the small space heater. Just a few hours earlier they had delivered the rescued fruit bats to the Wildlife Rescue Center and returned from a day-long relief mission in Anlak district. Now they sat together at their small breakfast table, 2 steaming mugs of black coffee and a solitary loaf of warm bread before them. Elena exhaled deeply. "What do you think is happening with the bat colony?" she asked. Liam took a slow sip of his coffee, his gaze distant. According to the rescue center's veterinarian, about half of them show good signs of improvement. The other half still need close monitoring because their respiratory secretions still carry a high viral load. Yesterday they sent samples to the Pasteur Institute to identify the virus strain and plan an antiviral vaccination strategy. Elena nodded, her eyes misting. I'm sorry I brought them out into the bitter cold. I only wanted to save their lives. Liam placed his hand over hers, squeezing gently. Don't blame yourself. We did the right thing. Leaving them to die in those cages would have been far worse. She took a bite of bread and glanced out the window, where morning light fell on the sofa where Milo lay curled up in deep sleep. I just fear that one small mistake could spark an outbreak, she admitted. Liam frowned thoughtfully. We sterilized every instrument, wore full lab garb, and now have the lab results confirming the virus strain. Even so, we must remain ready to adapt to any scenario. She exhaled a slow breath and offered him a grateful smile. Thank you. Even though I'm exhausted, I feel warm inside knowing you're here. He returned her smile with a tender kiss. As do I. After their quick breakfast, Elena prepared to head to Belindre General to visit Vang, the Fuquak dog who had just escaped death's door. Before leaving, she paused to look at Hachiko's photograph on the glass shelf, then watched Liam pedal off on his bicycle into the still cold morning. He turned, gave her a quick wave, and spoke in a serious tone, "Call me immediately if there's an emergency." She offered him a shy smile. "I will. But I may need to visit the deputy head of large animal veterinary medicine at the larger hospital today, ask for advanced parasite testing. If anything urgent comes up, call me." He nodded, trusting. "You know I will." With that, he pedaled away. Elena stepped down the short slope onto the street, the wind biting at her cheeks, yet her heart glowed as she headed for Belindre General. The hospital's frenetic energy engulfed her, doctors racing to diagnose a new avian flu case, nurses hustling fresh samples to the upstairs lab. She wove through the waiting benches until she found Dr. Fuq, the kindly mid-40s deputy chief of veterinary services with gentle eyes. He waved her over. "Hello, Elena. Lieutenant Huang told me you're here about Vang. We examined his parasites and spotted an unusual worm, very likely a clue to the smuggling ring." Elena nodded but then froze as she noticed a crowd of medical staff gathered around a strange patient on a gurney, the macaca mulatta they had rescued. Now, due to severe respiratory failure, he was undergoing an emergency lung transplant. Liam must have reached Dr. Fuq and asked for urgent surgical support. Elena's brow furrowed with concern. "I'm so sorry. I thought Hachiko might recover, but I didn't realize the virus ravaged his lungs so quickly." Dr. Fuq replied gently, "We are doing everything we can, but the strain was too aggressive." Elena looked at the bandaged monkey, its fur matted and damp, then shifted her gaze to Liam as he emerged from the throng. "What's the situation?" she asked. He glanced down at his sweaty palms, his lips drawn tight. "His case is more complicated than we thought. This morning's secretion test found yet another filovirus strain, similar to the Ebola virus in humans. Luckily, it hasn't crossed over to people yet, but if we don't act fast, it could spark a zoonotic pandemic." Shocked, Elena gasped, "Ebola? Right here in Belindre?" He answered calmly, "Yes. The terrifying part is that this virus can lie dormant for a while and then suddenly trigger acute respiratory failure, causing massive lung necrosis. I need you to draw Vang's blood quickly. Capillaria worms can carry filovirus too." Elena's body trembled, but she steeled herself. "I'll take the samples right now. With that data, we'll develop an anti-inflammatory and antiviral regimen for both the monkey and the dog." He nodded, his eyes full of unwavering faith. "Get it done fast. Time is more precious than gold." She hurried into the veterinary isolation ward, where Vang lay on ventilator support, tubes and 4 bags clustered around him. Wearing full protective gear, she drew a blood sample and prepared a second vial for filovirus testing. Her anxious eyes met the kit's rapid test reader as it registered a positive result for filovirus. Elena exhaled, looking at the screen. Confirmed. Vang needs antiviral therapy plus mechanical respiratory support. All around her, machines beeped softly, red lights flickered. She felt a stiffening in her chest. Bellandre is about to enter its most dangerous chapter yet. As she stepped out of the isolation unit, Liam stood waiting at the door. "It's worse than I thought," he said. "The rapid test confirms Vang is infected with filovirus, which can spread via droplets and bodily fluids. I've already contacted the Provincial Center for Disease Control, expect a rapid response team soon." Elena bristled at the word panic, but nodded firmly. "We shouldn't cause alarm. First, we must disinfect the entire clinic and screen every animal we've treated." He gently nodded, his expression grave. "Agreed. I'll also notify public health to secure the scene. You need to fetch more antivirals and immunostimulants." She mustered a tired smile. "I'm on it." She dashed into the pharmacy, grabbing vials of favipiravir and interferon, then returned to him and held them up. "These human-approved Ebola drugs, for compassionate use in dogs. We'll try them on Vang." He examined the bottles carefully. "I trust you." Elena nodded and closed the door, heading back to the veterinary ICU. Inside that sterile, stark room, Vang lay supported by a ventilator, surrounded by monitors and 4 drips. Elena donned another pair of gloves and set up the infusion pumps. "I'll combine favipiravir with interferon," she murmured as she began the first infusion, watching the dog's vital signs. Liam hovered beside her, eyes tense. She whispered to Vang, "Hang in there, buddy." She then adjusted the ventilator settings to improve oxygenation. Her mind raced, is it too risky to give a human treatment to an animal? Yet she reminded herself, we have no other option. As the intravenous liquids dripped steadily, Vang's body shuddered in strain and his labored breaths echoed. Elena winced but kept recording data. Through the long night, they kept vigil at Vang's side. Elena meticulously sterilized every surface, afraid to miss a single spot. Each tick of the clock stretched endlessly in the silence. At first light, Vang's second PCR test returned. The viral load had dropped below critical levels. Elena exhaled shakily and managed a small smile. "I can't believe it." He pulled through. Liam clasped her hand, eyes filling with relief. "You're incredible. Your perseverance and expertise saved him." She looked at him, joy lighting her features. "We saved Vang, but the risk is not gone." He nodded, worry still shadowing his eyes. "I just got word there's another ring up north holding captive endangered wildlife. They, too, may carry the same virus. We're entering an even more perilous phase, one that might require greater resources." Elena inhaled deeply, flame of determination flickering in her gaze. "I'm ready. No matter how dangerous it gets, I'll fight alongside you." He gave her a soft smile, his arms sliding around her shoulders. He pressed his forehead to the top of her head. "I love you. With you, I know we can overcome anything." As the sun rose behind the palm trees, its golden rays warming the spotless grounds of Bellandre, a renewed sense of hope spread through the town. Word had circulated, not only had Vang survived filovirus, but the rescued fruit bats were stable at the rescue station, and the macaca mulata, though he'd undergone a lung transplant, was now on the mend. From Dr. Fook to Lieutenant Huang to the villagers along the Loch River, all praised Elena and Liam's unwavering dedication. Elena glanced at Liam, her eyes shining with trust. "Perhaps this is only the beginning, but I feel lighter inside." He held her close, his voice warm. "We've won our first victory. Now we must maintain it." She swept her hand toward the fishing boats returning to the harbor beyond. "One day soon, I want to see Hachiko soaring from those palms and Vang running free on that sand. As long as we persist." He nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. That's why I stay by your side. Elena allowed herself a proud smile and stroked his hand. Come on, home to celebrate this victory. I've ordered a cake shaped like a monkey and a dog. He laughed with delight. I've been craving cake. Together, hand in hand, they walked beneath the new sunlight, ready to face whatever lay ahead, confident that love and responsibility would guide them on. A biting breeze heralded winter's return as the last leaves of the pine trees carpeted the stone path before the clinic. Elena Voss wrapped a thick wool scarf around her neck, her breath steaming in the frigid air as she stepped over the damp carpet of leaves. This morning she needed to set out early for Hoa Binh district. Authorities had just discovered a new wildlife trafficking cache. According to Lieutenant Huang's tip, the ringleader was Bin Ran, a reclusive artist behind numerous overseas smuggling operations involving rare birds and venomous snakes. Investigators also suspected he was tied to the sale of exotic sea slugs carrying dangerous toxins. Worse, the terrain where he had lay deep in the craggy, rocky ridges of the Tam Dao Range, too remote for police to raid easily in the dead of winter. Elena thought, if the police have to approach on foot in this freezing weather, they'll be lucky to find a path. She clenched her veterinary notebook and jotted a few notes. Collect parasite samples from prior cases to map out the network through Tam Dao foothills. Prepare snake antivenom and immune-boosting drugs for birds and primates. Milo, her faithful cocker spaniel, danced excitedly at her feet, as if sensing the journey ahead. She scooped him up and whispered, "Time to go again, my little healer. We have a long, difficult road ahead." Liam Corson waited by the clinic gate, leaning against their familiar pickup truck, clad in a moss-green windbreaker. He smiled as she approached. "Did you grab breakfast?" "I left bacon and fried eggs and coffee in the cab." Elena offered him a smile, though her legs shook with anticipation. "Thank you. I need every ounce of energy to face Bin Ran." He patted her shoulder, then helped Milo into the back seat. "Do not worry. Nothing will stop us." She leaned back against the seat, closing her eyes as she pictured the rocky caves where traffickers kept venomous snakes and caged rare birds. Despite the anxiety, she felt a sense of safety knowing Liam was by her side. Their truck wound along narrow, twisting roads that climbed the Tam Dao Mountains, each gust of winter air more piercing than the last. When they reached the base of the pass and hopped out to let Milo relieve himself, the dog pranced about, sniffing a large earthworm squirming in the cracked pavement. Milo tugged the worm to Elena as if offering a gift. She laughed and petted him. "You are my little clinic's best assistant," she said. Liam raised an eyebrow, teased, "I worry the only assistant you need for snakes is yourself." Elena frowned. "I'll keep that in mind. But today, we unmask the entire network." He nodded. "I've informed Lieutenant Huang we're closing in on the area. The SWAT team is ready." She glanced east at the sun rising over the sheer cliffs. Dawn has arrived, but the traffickers haven't awakened. Following a narrow stone path, they entered a small, abandoned village where only a few weathered houses remained. Leaving Milo safely crated, they emerged into dense undergrowth carrying a backpack stuffed with a thermal camera and a signal interceptor. Elena listened for any sign of wild animals or the hiss of snakes curling nearby. At the edge of the forest, moonlight, thin as a sliver, illuminated drooping frangipani branches. In the hush, Elena felt a chill. This place is as silent as a tomb. Liam whispered, "Bin Ran built makeshift pens here. I saw them on infrared just a few nights ago." Elena met his gaze, her eyes ablaze. "Then we must slip in quietly, plant cameras, and record their voices for evidence. I'll handle the snake pens, you track the rare birds. Gather enough proof, and we'll coordinate a raid." He nodded, though his expression remained grave. "Be careful. If we enter carelessly, they'll raise the alarm. Remember how Hachiko screeched when you shined a bright light on him?" Elena shook her head. "I'll use a dim red light for stealth." Liam gave a silent nod, then squeezed her hand. "I'll be right there with you. We can do this." She took another breath. "I just don't want to cause you worry." He brushed a strand of hair back from her face. "My worry fuels my determination to protect you." That night, they reached a tiny wooden gate beneath an ancient banyan tree that concealed a rocky cave entrance. Elena's infrared camera revealed stacked cages of quail, and nearby the low-lying forms of Indonesian cobras shifting in their enclosures. She held her breath as she placed her camera atop a sturdy stone, while Liam set the phone's signal logger to capture any unfamiliar numbers. Elena whispered, "I'm holding my breath. One wrong move could derail everything." He answered quietly, "They are moving product inside." Through the crack in the gate, she could see makeshift wooden crates and eviscerated quail carcasses strewn about. Liam held his breath and pressed the communicator's microphone near the wooden slat wall. They heard a hushed voice, "Meet the buyer tomorrow night at Golden Marsh. Hide the crates in the camouflaged boxes." Elena's face paled. "They are expanding their market, and shipping by fisher boats." He frowned, quiet and determined. "Record every word. Once we have proof, we'll take it directly to Lieutenant Huang." Elena lowered her light. "I'm afraid we might not finish in time. They're shipping more quail baskets downriver even now." He locked eyes with her, resolute, "Just stay calm. Everything is in my sight." She nodded. They retreated, removing the camera gear and the phone interceptor from the clearing. The chill of the night air seeped through their jackets, but within Elena, a spark of hope flickered. "If we can show the conversation and images, then when we match parasite and virus samples, we can freeze their entire operation." Liam met her gaze. "I've already arranged to send those worm and infection samples from the monkeys and snakes to the lab. We'll know the full picture by tonight." Elena exhaled. "If we delay, they'll vanish." He clasped her hand. "We must remain on their trail. Are you ready?" She gave him a determined nod. "Always." Moments later, they crept to the back of the pens and gently pried open the partially rotted wooden gate. The blast of stale, fouled air mixed with faint scents of feathers and spilled feed hit their nostrils. Elena's dim red headlamp illuminated the stacked burlap sacks and crates. Liam aimed his infrared scope. "I see a few drums of crude bird feed and rows of juvenile quail cages," he whispered. "The hushed voices from earlier, they're here too." Elena inched forward, careful not to disturb the straw bedding. She thought, "They're harvesting quail for their livers and gizzards, selling them at premium prices." A sudden shuffle behind her made her freeze. Liam pulled her back, voice low, "Someone's moving. They'll kill that cobra for venom." Elena's heart pounded. "I must capture clear audio proving the bird shipment and illicit snake handling." Liam gently guided her out of the pen. "I've already filed requests with the higher lab. They'll run rapid sequence analysis to trace origins. By tonight, we'll have final confirmation." Elena forced herself to stay calm. They moved so stealthily. Liam squeezed her hand. "Are you okay?" She managed a small smile. "Yes." Moments later, they slipped away from the area, cameras and microphones in hand. Each step felt heavy with the cold night air, but Elena's spirit remained bright. "We have them. With the video, the audio, and the parasite and virus data, we'll dismantle this ring completely." Liam nodded and whispered, "By 9 p.m., the SWAT and Border Patrol units will strike." Elena's heart soared. "We're about to break the back of the snake oil traffickers." He turned to her, admiration shining in his eyes. "You did this. I'm proud of you." She pressed her palm to his. "With you by my side, I can face anything." That night, as floodlights lit up the cavern's mouth, a column of police and special forces moved silently into position. Elena and Liam crouched in the bamboo thicket, staying just out of sight. She passed Liam the audio logger and whispered, "Careful now. One unexpected noise, and it's over." He nodded, his eyes fixed on two small tunnel entrances. From within came the creak of slatted wood as cages were shuffled. Suddenly, a hidden gate swung open, and two men stepped out carrying heavy bird cages, just as ratty and blood-soaked as Liam had feared. Elena felt her heart freeze as she caught sight of Ben Ran himself, sinewy and dark-skinned, face lined from years of skulking in these hills. He glimpsed them by the narrow Olympic-grade scope of Liam's infrared monocular. "They are here," he hissed. Within seconds, the attackers recognized the intruders. "SWAT! Freeze!" Officers yelled as flashbang grenades popped at the tunnel entrance. Gunshots rang out, though no one was hit. In the chaos, Ben Ran stumbled backward, screaming in rage. He banged a slab of planks against the stone wall, trying to block the exit. Elena inhaled sharply. "Liam, he's barricaded himself," he reported. "They've also hired mercenaries who just arrived." Elena nodded, teeth clenched. "We recorded their conversation and saw the evidence. Now we just need to arrest them." Liam whispered, "Control the birds, release them if necessary. I'll circle around the cliff and cut him off." Elena gave a quick nod and tossed a smoke grenade into the main pen. As the white smoke bloomed, quail squawked and fluttered madly. "If you move, I'll use pepper spray," she called into the swirling haze. The bird smugglers panicked and scattered. Meanwhile, Liam dashed to the side cavern entrance and triggered a stun glove on Ben Ran's ankle. The ringleader collapsed, screaming in agony. "Stay down," Liam roared. The rest of the traffickers froze and surrendered as police poured in. Elena rushed forward to help secure the cages. Lieutenant Huang arrived on scene, barking orders: "Protect the wildlife, get them out of harm's way." Lieutenant Corson: "Collect the cages and secure the venom vials." Liam complied, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Elena embraced Milo, who yipped happily at the rescued birds as they were carried out. "We did it," she whispered, tears brimming. Liam wrapped her in a hug. "Yes. But now we must present our evidence at trial and ensure those animals have safe new homes." Elena offered a bright, weary smile. "We succeeded." Under the pale sheen of that winter moon, Bellandre seemed to breathe freely again. The ring was broken, those high up the chain had been arrested. Elena and Liam had triumphed, protecting love, wildlife, and the town they called home. Winter on Bellandre had ended, yielding to a blaze of spring. The palm leaves turned bright again along the stone path, and cicadas began their soft chorus in place of the icy winds. The satellite clinic where Elena and Liam worked shone warmly under golden lamps, while the little lavender garden beyond prepared to burst into bloom. Elena stood at the window, surveying the serenity that followed both the Ben Ran takedown and the filovirus crisis. Milo darted between the blossoms, barking excitedly at the new day. She exhaled a contented sigh, inhaling the fragrant air. "We have weathered every storm, now let us live for this moment." That morning marked the first anniversary of the clinic's grand opening. Elena had decided to host a small celebration for staff and some of their closest clients. They decorated olive branches and bright yellow apricot blossoms, blending the traditional Tet atmosphere with the clinic's gentle aesthetic. Outside, a row of wooden benches invited guests to sit and sip tea beneath a red banner reading "Happy New Spring, Warmth, and Love." Elena herself wore a pastel green dye embroidered with white lavender sprigs, her hair neatly pinned up, exuding grace and poise that drew everyone's breath. Liam arrived at sunrise in a charcoal gray blazer, a single lavender sprig pinned to his lapel, an homage to all they'd endured together. He grinned at her. "You look like a flower in bloom." She blushed, eyes shining. "Happy not just because it's today, but because I have you." As the festivities began, Elena stepped before the small gathering and invited everyone to share warm tea and the special cake shaped like Hachiko the parrot. Veterinarians, nurses, friends like Lena and Martha, even local clients with small dogs and cats, all gathered with bright smiles. One dog owner called out, "Dr. Voss, we're so proud you always care for our pets so wholeheartedly. And we owe Mr. Corson our thanks, he's been her steadfast partner." Elena stood quietly, tears glistening. "Thank you, everyone, for being here. Over the past year we have faced so many trials, filovirus, the bin ran ring, that critically ill monkey. But through love and determination, we have overcome them all. I promise to keep fighting until no trafficker threatens wildlife and no disease terrorizes our community." A roaring round of applause followed. Liam squeezed her hand, pride shining. "She has transformed Bellandre." Elena braved a gentle smile at their guests. "And I could not have done it without him." That Tet festival closed on cheerful waves of laughter, and the crowd moved outside for small plates of lavender honey cake and hot tea. Under the morning sun, the chill of winter melted away. Elena realized she now had not just a husband but a true partner, someone who stood beside her in both life's work and its joys. As winter turned to an effervescent spring, the satellite clinic became busier than ever. From dawn to dusk, Elena greeted new litters of Shih Tzus for wellness checks, charted care for adoptable reptiles, and tended to rabbits recovering from intestinal infections. With each returning healthy patient, her heart warmed. She remembered Liam's words, "I found peace by your side." She would reply with a smile, "Then I find peace in my work, where my heart always looks to you." One Wednesday afternoon, rain drizzled down softly, turning the clinic's waiting room a hushed, reflective space. Elena sat sipping ginger tea, her gaze drifting to the window's grey hush. She thought of the brief weeks Liam had spent across Europe uncovering cross-border filovirus smuggling. Is he safe? She wondered. But she reminded herself, if the biggest threats return, we'll face them together. She rose and wiped a raindrop from the glass, steeling her resolve, then turned to greet the next patient arriving in a rain-splashed carrier. That weekend, spring's warmth blossomed fully. Elena and Liam decided to begin fulfilling a shared dream, building a small guest cottage atop a bluff overlooking the bay where they could host workshops, seminars, and families visiting from out of town. They found a vacant 3-story row house near the old Boatwright Wharf, its yellow paint weathered but promising. The first floor would house a new consultation and wellness area, the second a small ultrasound and X-ray suite, and the third a quiet research/library space for their archives and evening planning sessions. The rear courtyard would transform into a lavender and hibiscus garden, where clients could stroll with their pets. On their first visit, the front door's carved wooden panels were chipped and dull. Liam knocked gently. "What do you think?" he asked. Elena placed her hand on the rough plaster. "It's perfect. Large windows for daylight, wide front space for seating and information displays." He nodded. "I'll call the glassmith for new tempered frosted panes. We'll put one facing the back garden so it's both private and bright." Elena's eyes lit up. "Exactly. Upstairs we'll need a small surgery suite and a diet counseling room with a view of the sea." He beamed at her. "You have it all planned out. We'll start the ground floor first, and then build up." She agreed. "It's time to make it real. I'll contact an interior designer." Next, he guided her to the tiny backyard, just a few square meters of scrubland fenced in by jagged limestone. "Imagine a lavender row here, and a border of purple aster," he suggested. Elena closed her eyes, picturing a sea of violet petals swaying in the breeze. "What a lovely idea. I'll pick out lavender plants and care for them myself, everything in harmony with nature." He hugged her from behind, hands settling at her waist. "I'll help you. We'll tend it together on weekends." In that moment, she felt Liam's warm hand anchoring her, a bond as sturdy as the coral limestone beneath their feet. Over the next month, they worked tirelessly. Elena continued her demanding clinic schedule, but each evening and weekend she surveyed contractors, collected paint swatches, and personally selected lavender seedlings from the nursery. Liam, too, was eager, Each afternoon, he lugged a corner clamp to his woodworking shop, his floors scattered with sawdust, crafting custom shelving and display cases. What began as simple accent pieces evolved into his wholehearted enthusiasm for designing the new clinic's atmosphere. Once accustomed to configuring tactical gear, his steady hands now carved cedar beams as if each piece of wood represented a page in their shared life story. One brisk Sunday morning, as pale sunlight filtered through budding foliage, they arrived with shovels and bags of compost at the tiny lot behind the row house. Milo barked excitedly, dancing around them. Together, they dug 4 shallow trenches, each lined with a row of lavender seedlings. Liam knelt, planting each carefully. Elena followed behind, covering roots gently with soil and watering from a stainless steel can. When they finished, a slender hedge of purple-green stalks stood waiting for dew and bloom. She exhaled in relief. "It's beautiful, but we have to wait a few weeks for the buds to open." He rose and wrapped his arms around her. "I'm grateful we did this together. It makes me feel so fortunate." Milo bounded over and placed his paws on Liam's knees as if joining the celebration. Elena bent down, kissed Milo's fuzzy head. "Here you are, our third team member. We love you, buddy." Liam gently ruffled the dog's ears. "Soon, this little garden will be our sanctuary." She smiled with hope. "Yes, light green walls, purple blossoms, scented breezes." He nodded. "We deserve our own retreat, a place for dreams and love." In mid-spring, renovations on the row house began in earnest. The faded yellow facade was repainted in a warm cream hue. Inside, each basement tile was replaced with rich, terracotta brown floor tiles laid diagonally. Large tempered glass panels were fitted into the front windows, flooding the ground floor with daylight. Elena stood on the new terracotta floor, hand touching the freshly painted wall as she studied the blueprint pinned nearby. "This front room will be for general consultations and vaccinations," she said, tracing a mental outline of animal flow. "Upstairs, there will be a small operating room and a radiology suite, with windows facing the bay to let in early morning sun." Liam nodded, eyes bright. "Everything is coming together." She smiled. "It feels complete. Almost perfect." He playfully raised an eyebrow. "Perfect, but isn't there something missing?" She wrinkled her brow. "What do you mean?" He gazed out at the fishing boats returning at dusk, then turned to her with a spark in his eyes. "The 3rd floor needs a private study for us, to store reference texts and provide a sanctuary on stormy days." She gasped happily. "A room for research?" He took her hand with a teasing grin. "Yes, because if you stayed only in the clinic, you'd be overworked. A study gives you space for research and a quiet corner to relax." Elena laughed with delight, her joy as bright as the island's wildflowers. "You always surprise me. I love it. We'll add bookshelves, a desk, and a comfy sofa." He nodded. "I'll handle it. We deserve a private nook for our dreams and love." She closed her eyes, resting her head on his shoulder as she admired the view of the glistening bay. "I feel so blessed to share this journey with you." That weekend, as the first lavender buds opened with morning dew still clinging to petals, close family and friends gathered for a small groundbreaking ceremony. Friends Lena and Martha arrived to show support. Lena hugged Elena, whispering, "Your determination amazes me. This new clinic will be a true success." Martha smiled kindly, patting Lena's arm. "Now we'll finally have a place to gather, drink tea, and talk about pets and life." Liam Corson stood proudly among them, taking Elena's hand in front of a ceremonial stone marker and spade. He spoke with emotion, "Thank you all for coming today. On behalf of my wife, Dr. Voss, I proudly declare the commencement of our 2nd animal care clinic, a place where we hope to empower animal lovers. I am grateful to have her by my side." Elena stepped forward, nodding her thanks to everyone. Her heart swelled as she saw the smiling faces, friends who had supported her even before Liam appeared, now sharing in her happiness. After the ceremony, the guests enjoyed light refreshments under the clinic's porch, lavender-themed pastries and hot tea wafting gentle floral scents. Laughter dispelled any trace of morning chill. Meanwhile, Elena and Liam tallied renovation expenses, consulted with the architect and contractors. Elena felt she had not only a husband, but a true partner, a soulmate who supported her in both work and life. As spring yielded to the heat of summer, the satellite clinic's extension finally opened its doors. The ground floor became the welcoming area and general exam rooms, the second floor housed ultrasound and X-ray suites, and the third floor now offered a small surgical room and consultation spaces. Behind the building, the lavender and white aster garden flourished. Each afternoon, clients strolled with their pets, sipping tea beneath red hibiscus blossoms. Dogs and cats in the waiting room preferred to stand by the garden gate, enjoying the fresh air instead of the tension of being indoors. Elena and Liam's lives became a seamless tapestry. In the mornings, Liam headed to his woodworking shop to craft cabinetry and wall panels. Elena cared for patients at the main clinic. In the afternoons, they took turns overseeing the new wing. On rare days off, they rode bicycles along the shore, collecting seashells to decorate the hallway, infusing the clinic with a touch of coastal charm. Their dream of expanding the satellite clinic had ceased to be a mere fantasy. It was now a living testament to their devotion and common purpose. Yet in their hearts, a vigilant caution remained. During Liam's continental missions to bring down cross-border wildlife traffickers, they learned that the network never truly vanished. Once, on a moonlit night, he whispered to her, "I discovered a ring operating in some coastal areas that hasn't been completely shut down. I hope our case is strong enough to break it for good. But I worry." Elena pressed a comforting kiss to his shoulder. "I believe in you. If we need further evidence, I can talk to the local pet owners, they share information with each other." Liam looked at her with fierce gratitude. "I need you by my side. No matter how dangerous it gets, I want you with me." She smiled and leaned into him. "We'll face any storm together." That promise deepened their bond, anchoring them in mutual trust, even as the fight against these traffickers would not conclude overnight. As summer's heat peaked, Belindre glowed beneath a dazzling sun. The streets grew quieter as vacationers thinned out. In the mornings, Liam donned jeans and a short-sleeved shirt and carried a tape measure to tweak display cabinets, while Elena, in her white lab coat and stethoscope, moved through the satellite clinic's exam rooms. One day she examined an 8-year-old girl's mallard duck with a fractured wing, then tended a macaw parrot suffering from pneumonia. As she treated the parrot, she detected new skin regrowth on the wing, a hopeful sign. A bright smile spread across her face as she advised the owner on bandaging and nutrition. In her mind, she glimpsed Liam at his wooden bench, quietly tracing cabinet contours with chisel in hand. Their harmonious blend of veterinary medicine and woodworking created a unique tapestry of life. On a weekend afternoon when the sun softened, Elena and Liam biked up a winding trail to a small hill outside Belindre. At its crest stood an ancient shrine with stone benches facing the sea. They sat side by side, gazing at the horizon where sea and sky melted. Liam closed his eyes, inhaling deeply, then said softly, "Did you ever imagine you'd live a life like this? From a lonely young woman to owning a thriving clinic, a partner, and a happy little dog?" Elena turned to him with a gentle smile. "I never dreamed of this, but now I feel endlessly blessed. The life I once thought was a fantasy became reality. The greatest gift is having you by my side." Liam opened his eyes, happiness shining in them. "Likewise. I used to think I was destined to be a shadow in covert missions, with no one to share my heart with. Then I met you, and I learned what it means to love." She reached up to caress his cheek. "You deserve to be loved. So whatever lies ahead, I will stand by you." He gripped her hand tightly. "We are a team. I will protect you, just as you protect the clinic and our dear Milo." She chuckled. I will protect you with all my heartfelt love. They sat in comfortable silence as the late afternoon sun filtered through their joined hands, painting dappled reflections on the ground. The distant surf whispered its promise of tomorrow. Gradually, that little shrine on the mountainside became their Sunday morning ritual. Elena brought her veterinary textbooks, while Liam brought his sketchbook for woodworking designs. They jotted notes about building rehabilitation science for animals, crafting animal-friendly cabinetry, and sometimes, simply shared dreams, like, next spring I want us to travel to Provence for the Lavender Festival, to celebrate our new clinic's success. Liam's eyes lit up. I hope by then the clinic is fully operational. I'll take you to those endless purple fields. No matter how vast the world, you're the one I want to journey with. Elena offered contented smile, lips trembling with emotion. I'll wait for that day. I believe we both deserve true, nurturing happiness. Embarking on that promise, they felt their love rooted ever deeper, aware that the fight against wildlife crime would not end overnight, but confident they had each other's shoulders to lean on. As autumn arrived with its cool mists and drizzles, Belindre quieted. The streets thinned, but the satellite clinic remained busy. One afternoon, Elena received an urgent call from a colleague in the capital, a veterinarian there requested remote consultations for a feline case of suspected hemorrhagic septicemia. She hopped on her bike and pedaled to Liam's woodworking shop for privacy, setting up her laptop to connect via video link. Liam sat nearby, sipping a strong coffee, watching her work with admiration. She methodically asked the cat's owner where he'd been brought, reviewed photos of the cat's inflamed gums and photographic evidence of blood in the urine, then conferred on therapy. When the remote consult concluded, she wiped sweat from her brow. That was tough. Thank goodness I had a colleague on the other end. Liam rose to his feet and gently rubbed her shoulders. You did brilliantly. I'm proud of you. Elena met his gaze, teary. Thank you. I feared I'd freeze under pressure. He squeezed her shoulder. You never do. I trust you completely. She smiled and pressed a kiss to his cheek. With you behind me, I have even more strength. That autumn, Belindre hosted a grand festival celebrating the season's harvest. The satellite clinic partnered with local pet shops to exhibit their animal care services. Elena and Liam assembled a booth decorated with sprays of golden chrysanthemums and banners describing clinic offerings. Milo wore a tiny vest embroidered with a lavender sprig as the official mascot, sitting proudly in front of the tent as visitors flocked to pet him and snap selfies. Each time a patron asked, "Is that the clinic's mascot?" She grinned. Exactly. He's been with us since the first clinic, now the new satellite location. Milo gave a little bark and nuzzled her hand. Children squealed and gathered around to hug him. Liam, standing proudly, praised, "He's so adorable, everyone wants a hug." Elena petted Milo's head, beaming. "I call him Gia Bao, our family treasure." A little girl clutching her mother gasped, "So we can give our pets personalized names, too? That's amazing." Elena turned to explain the tradition behind naming beloved animals, then transitioned to demonstrating her clinic's cardiac ultrasound service for dogs and cats. Liam carried a refreshing watermelon juice to her. "Drink this, you're sweating." She took the glass and looked up at him with deep affection. "Thank you for noticing the little things. I feel so loved." He nodded, eyes shining. "We built this together. You deserve it." In a single year, from that humble first clinic opening to the grand new satellite location and the autumn festival, Elena and Liam had poured their sweat, and sometimes tears, into every stage. Through it all, they stayed united, through lonely nights before exams and the labor of planting lavender seedlings. Standing side by side under the Belindre sky, they understood that love was the force that bound them through every season's warmth or storm. They knew their journey was far from over. There could still be unclosed criminal cases, acute veterinary emergencies, or nights alone when one had to leave for duty, but they had each other's shoulders to lean on. Therefore, Each dawn, with rosy light cresting the sea, they reminded themselves, no matter how vast the sea, no storm can break us, together, we'll walk to the end of the path. Bellandre remained a gentle, dreamlike haven. Milo continued to frolic and bark joyfully. And Elena, once a lonely veterinary student with a single spaniel, had blossomed into a strong, caring woman ready to build a home with Liam, a man of unwavering integrity and courage. Their love, like the lavender blooms on craggy shores, stood proud and enduring, braving any wind or wave. Life would send them many diversions, but their love would be the constant compass, so that with each returning sunrise, they could smile at one another and say, "We chose right." Spring gave way to early summer as the sun cast long ribbons of gold over Bellandre's streets. Under the blazing light, small cargo bicycles began to bustle through every alley. Elena and Liam's satellite clinic returned to lively bustle with new pet appointments, a British shorthair cat with arthritis, a ground squirrel whose wing had been injured after touching a hidden snare, and a rare green salamander that seldom appeared. Yet deep in Elena's heart, her concern over the wildlife trafficking network remained. Now the most important task was to see Bin Ran brought to trial, for once and for all ending this case. Liam Corson had already submitted a mountainside of evidence to the Provincial People's Court: investigation files, filovirus test results, parasite analyses, photographs of rare birds, and recorded voice clips. Elena remembered the day they set out to find the traffickers' cache, headlights slicing through the gravelly mountain road as her heart pounded in time with Liam's footsteps. Now that the cruelest ringleader was in custody, she still felt something lacking if the network's hidden arms remained free. On a brilliant Sunday morning, she and Liam strolled along the shoreline with Milo to clear their minds. The surf whispered against the sand, and flocks of seagulls skimmed low over the water. Elena looked up at the sky, her eyes full of thought. "Do you think the case has enough foundation for Bin Ran to be tried before the Supreme People's Court? I'm afraid the remaining foot soldiers will slip away quietly." Liam turned to her, his gaze earnest. "I've asked the court to invite a multidisciplinary panel of judges, since this case is unusually complex: wildlife trafficking, international export, breaches of environmental law, and criminal epidemiology. They could try to bribe key witnesses." Elena frowned, sadness in her eyes. "I just fear those foot soldiers will soon rise up and rebuild the network. We must stop that before a new crisis erupts." He stopped walking and gently took her hand. "I know. But right now we must stay strong. You need to focus on veterinary work so that nobody panics." She nodded, voice trembling slightly. "You are right. I need to concentrate on healing animals and spreading love." That afternoon, after the last appointment was finished, Elena stayed behind in the third-floor library to study the newest antibiotic protocols for pets. Liam went to the back to clean surgical instruments in the operating room. She sat at her desk, watching a video on her laptop about mRNA-combined vaccines for avian influenza when a knock sounded on the door. Opening it, she found Lieutenant Huang standing there, his face grave. "Dr. Voss, I've come on behalf of Corson with news. The preliminary hearing, convened by the Supreme People's Court, will take place next week in Hanoi. Security is in place, and we'll need you both to participate as expert witnesses." Elena stepped back, startled. "Does that mean we have to go to Hanoi?" Lieutenant Huang nodded. "Yes. The court needs a veterinary specialist to analyze the filovirus data, the parasite findings, and confirm the wildlife's origins. That helps the judges assess Bin Ran's level of culpability and the danger he posed. We will cover all your expenses and provide security. Corson is very concerned for you, but this mission is more important than ever." Elena exhaled as she glanced around her warm, document-filled space. "I'll be ready. Please arrange for my passport and a hotel reservation. I need to respond and prepare my personal documents." The lieutenant nodded, then turned and left, leaving Elena standing still, tears welling in her eyes. He had said, "Justice awaits us. Have confidence." She looked down at Milo, who lay at her feet with innocent eyes. "All right, Milo, time to go again." The following afternoon, they embarked for Hanoi. The plane cut its way through wisps of cloud above an endless stretch of rice paddies. As soon as they landed at Noi Bai Airport, they hurried down the escalator. Security officers and court staff were already waiting. Elena managed to slip on her heavier coat and wool hat, then followed them to a sleek black limousine. She sighed, tears in her eyes. "Do you think the trial will be intense?" Liam turned to her, placing his hand on her knee. "I do, but speak with calm confidence, and let your veterinary expertise and compassion shine through so that justice can hear it." She nodded, bracing herself. "I'm afraid of public criticism, but I know I have to be strong now." He gave her a reassuring smile. "You speak with purpose. I believe in you." She turned to watch the highway slip past beneath the city lights. "Love is our strength. I will keep calm." Arriving at the Supreme People's Court building, every inch of the compound was under strict guard. A few medical personnel sat ready in the hallway, prepared to render aid if needed. Elena and Liam were escorted into the technical operations room, filled with chairs and a high-tech projection system. She greeted the presiding justices and then quietly took a seat in the expert witness area. When the hearing began, the Chief Justice introduced the case. "We are here to try defendant Lê Van Bin, commonly known as Bin Ran, born 1982 in Tam Dao, Vinh Phuc. He faces charges of trafficking endangered wildlife and violating biosafety regulations that risked a pandemic. Today, the court calls 2 experts, a veterinarian and a forensic pathologist, to testify." Elena took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment to steady herself. When the court called for her testimony, she read aloud the lab reports. Lung secretion samples from the macaca mulatta revealed a filovirus strain closely related to Ebola, genetically identified as Vietnam 2024. Capillaria worms isolated from the Phu Quoc dog provide evidence that the traffickers intentionally created an infection cluster to facilitate their wildlife trade. In addition, viral isolates from snake gastrointestinal samples showed hemorrhagoids toxins capable of causing hemorrhage and multi-organ failure. As she spoke, some judges and lawyers exchanged approving glances. She spoke clearly, pouring all her expertise and compassion into every word. When she glanced down at Liam, she glimpsed his proud, tear-filled eyes. "I've done all I can," she thought. That afternoon, during cross-examination, Bin Ran's defense attorney attempted to sow doubt. "My client merely brokered transactions. He did not directly kill or harm animals. The filovirus strain found is solely an animal virus, incapable of infecting humans. Those fruit bats contracted illness from polluted water, unrelated to my client's actions." Elena watched, heart aching at the attorney's twisted logic. When given her chance to rebut, she rose and spoke with conviction. "Honorable Court, genomic sequencing confirms the filovirus from both the monkey and snake samples belongs to the high-risk family highly infectious to humans. Clinical and serological evidence clearly shows zoonotic transmission. As for the fruit bats, they were captured and confined in sealed cages, causing hypoxia and respiratory collapse, not due to polluted water. Moreover, parasite screenings demonstrate that capillaria worms originated from deep forest regions and were trafficked out by the defendant. Thus, it is impossible to argue that Lê Van Bin is innocent." Light applause rippled through the courtroom. Elena kept her gaze downward, heart pounding, as she thought, "Now we can only wait for the verdict." Liam gently squeezed 2 of her fingers and whispered, "You spoke with both your heart and mind. You did the right thing." She nodded, tears slipping free. "I only hope justice prevails." On the second day of trial, after 2 long days of testimony, the 7-judge panel retired to deliberate. They announced that they would deliver their decision in 3 days. That very evening, Elena and Liam returned to Belindre aboard a late-night train. Elena placed her hand over her heart, thinking, the past is set, the present sings with purpose, and the future. The future will be the smiles of the monkeys, the squirrels, and Hachiko soaring in the sky. Milo slept soundly in his little carrier, his ears flicking at each lurch of the train. She glanced at Liam, gratitude shining. "What do we do now?" He replied with a gentle smile, "We establish a wildlife conservation fund here in Bellandre. It will support animal rehabilitation, reintroduction to the wild, and community education." Elena's eyes lit up in surprise and joy. "That's exactly what I've dreamed about." He kissed her forehead. "Now is the time to make it real." Elena's eyes brimmed as she replied, "Thank you. I feel more alive than ever." Liam watched the early dawn light glimmering on the window. "Bellandre wakes each morning as if nothing had ever happened," he murmured. She leaned her head on his shoulder, inhaling the salty breeze. "Here is an irreplaceable haven of peace." The next morning, Bellandre awakened under the first rays of early summer sun. Elena and Liam returned to the satellite clinic, where Milo greeted them with joyful tail wags, and Hachiko flapped within his roomy aviary, now outfitted with small branches to exercise his wings. Adjacent to the clinic, they formally launched the Dawn Wildlife Conservation Fund. They converted a small room next to the library into the fund's headquarters, a long table with a laptop, pages of information about protected species, instructions for donations, and community involvement opportunities. Pet owners streamed in, some offering cash, others donating a pair of small parrots to be rehabilitated and released once healthy. Elena beamed as she watched them read the materials and discuss eagerly. "We must continue to spread responsibility throughout the community," she told Liam. He placed a hand on her shoulder, eyes shining. "You have done it." Elena lowered her gaze, overflowing with joy. "All of us are part of this love." June arrived with radiant sunshine and gentle surf. Hand in hand, Elena and Liam took Milo to the beach where they had first met beneath the wind-blown palms. Elena nestled against him, savoring the briny sea air. "After everything, we remain here," she whispered. Liam circled his arms around her and placed a light kiss on her hair. "Because of you, everything holds meaning," he said. She looked up at him, cheeks flushed by sun and bliss. "I no longer fear crises, because I know you protect me." He smiled, eyes bright. "And you give me purpose." Milo barked joyfully, bounding into the shallows. Elena and Liam exchanged a look full of shared triumph. Justice had been served, precious lives had been saved, and a bright future lay ahead. The sea's gentle rhythm reflected the radiant glow of love and purpose. Bellandre once again proved that, no matter how many storms may swell, genuine love and responsibility will always guide the hearts of those who fight for what is right.